Good afternoon.
Hey, happy Sunday, everyone.
Happy Sunday.
Let's see. Let me make sure I have everything. Turn my volume up. Get my water and get my screen pulled up. Hello, everyone. I'm Sherry. We'll get started here in just a second. You know me by now. I have issues with my stuff popping up on screen, so just trying to make sure everything's together. Sandra, I think this is my first time meeting you.
It is.
Hey, happy Sunday.
Same to you.
Uh-huh. So have you been with Dr. Pam before?
I have not. This is actually my first session.
Okay. So I explain it while we have about 2 minutes before we get started. I'm like Dr. Pam's sidekick. I used to be her student. I'm an LCSW, and so I always tell the story of I was working. I was actually being tutored by her. Quit my job in the midst of trying to pass my LCSW exam that I took, by the way. I'm 13 times and passed on the 13th time. So I tell
Oh,
people don't
wow.
give up. It's another
Okay.
story behind it, but it's not bad for me. You know, some people get irritated after two. I'm like, I'm blessed. But with that being said, Dr. Pam was like, when I quit my job, she was like, "So what are you gonna do now?" I was like, "Tutor for you." And she was like, "Come on, girl." I was like, "I haven't even passed my exam yet." She was like, "It don't matter. You know this stuff." And so I was actually tutoring people. My students were passing their LC exam and I wasn't. And I didn't
Wow.
get upset about it because sometimes I believe in God. And
Right.
sometimes I believe that God does things in the way he wants it to be.
Right.
And
His
so
timing ain't not his time.
yeah, it ain't your timing. And his timing has been perfect because after I passed my exam, everything fell in place. And if I had passed it earlier, I don't think things would have been where it needed to be. But
Oh, okay.
so where I am now is I've been with Dr. Pam. I've been tutoring now for 3 years. I do a lot of private.
Let's get this paper out.
Occasionally, I have done private groups at nighttime. And so Dr. Pam has retired now, and you'll see she and I, if you alternate between these groups, they're 2 hours long. You have to keep your camera on. You can't be in your car. We do ask for participation because participation helps you. And then later,
Okay.
your video will be available for you to go back and look at and view. There are things like I hear the students say, "Well, when Dr. Pam is doing a call, she tell us we can't write." I encourage you all to write and things of that nature, but you have to do what works best for you. I just do say, don't stop once the video shuts down. You know, keep practicing, keep reading, not just doing test questions. I think that's where we fall short a lot of times. Um, as we all know or should know, the exam is changing just a little bit starting
Mm-hmm.
August. Nothing major. I don't think stuff people should frantic over, but I love what I do. I do what I love. Anyone that's ever had me through a group or individually will tell you, like, when I leave the call, I actually learned a little something from her. So
Okay.
I'm primarily the even Sundays. Dr. Pam is like the odd Sundays, but occasionally I do odd Sundays because she travels a lot.
Yeah.
And so when she's out of the country and things of that nature, I'll take over there. You have questions,
Okay.
comments, or concerns?
No,
Okay. You
I'm
excited?
getting ready. I'm getting ready. I finally registered to take the clinical part of the exam myself. So I'm just refreshing up. That's
Okay.
all.
All right.
And I want to
Uh,
take it. I want to take it the regular way. Hopefully I'll pass, but if not, I want to take it the regular way first and then
go from there. What state are you in?
I'm in Alabama.
Okay. We next door. I'm in Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mobile.
Hey.
I'm in Mobile.
Mobile, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie, Nicole. Nicole, we've met before, haven't we? Yeah, we have. Sheila, you're new for me, right?
Yes, I am. I
Okay.
just started last week.
Okay. Did you hear my spiel when I was talking to Miss Sandra?
No, I just came in. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's okay. Yeah, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. It is 4:02 my time. It may not be your time. You might be 5:03.
5:02. I'm in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
have family that stay in Tennessee.
okay. Y'all, Natalie is in Alaska.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So what time is it there, Natalie? Is it the daytime, the nighttime?
No. It's 102.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Still decent. Well,
it's
yeah, we about
1:02. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. 102 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Miss
Nice.
Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we about to get this show rolling. Tonight, we're talking about intervention. I always tell individuals that I teach from Don Apgar book, the LCSW. I don't care if you're LB, LM, LAP. It's all the same when it comes to teaching, with the exception of LMs don't, anything under LC normally doesn't get as much medication. But ultimately, what you get out of these groups is, between Dr. Pam and I alternating, we actually end up running the same course. You might get the same course twice a year. The thing is, we don't teach it the same. It may look like it, but I have learned, hey, Miss Jones, she came back.
I had,
What you gonna say, Miss Jones?
well, I actually wanted to just stop in and tell you that I passed my test on the 18th.
Ah, congratulations.
Okay. Yeah,
Congratulations.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
stop right there. Go ahead and give us a testimony. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes.
Okay. So, yeah, I had failed my test twice.
You
The
did
first,
not pass.
I did not pass. I'm sorry, I did not pass my test twice. So the first time I took it, I missed it by 4 points. The second time I took it, I missed it by 3 points. And when I took it on the 18th, I was supposed to get like a 97th to pass. I got 112.
Oh, good job.
Woo! So what
Yes.
helped you?
Oh, your groups, first off,
Ah,
amazing.
thank you.
Yes. So that's why I had to come on here and let you know, like, you're so helpful. I was working also with Dr. Pam, one-on-one, so that was helpful as well. Just everything, like everything that you all bring to the table has helped me. Because I could not do it on my own. So like I'm so grateful. I could cry right now. I did a
Yeah,
lot of
let it
crying this
out.
week.
Let it out.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
motivation.
That's
Yeah.
Yes.
motivation.
Yes.
Congratulations all
Thank
day
you.
long.
So may
Okay, so I'm gonna
I
give
ask, are
everybody
you
an opportunity.
LMSW?
I'm gonna give everybody an opportunity to ask you a question. Sheila,
Okay.
go
Okay.
ahead and ask her.
Are you LMSW?
Yes. So that's the
Oh,
test. Yep. I-
yay. So
Yes.
you
Natalie,
felt
what's your
confident?
question? I'm sorry, Miss Jones.
I'm sorry, I
Oh,
just want to ask her, did you
okay.
felt confident on the 18th?
Oh yeah. When I tell you, it was like the questions seemed so easy this time around.
Yeah.
Like I knew how to break them down. It was totally different from the first go around and the second. The third time was the charm. It just felt like I was prepared. Like all the information was in my head. I could hear Dr. Pam in my head. I could hear Miss Sherry in my head. I could hear everybody. And all the videos that I watched, like, yes, it was amazing.
What were we saying? Did you break that question down?
Yes. What is that question asking you? I would go back
Yes.
and I did a lot of praying. Like I was praying in the test. Like my faith has never been this strong before, ever. I knew that day that I was gonna pass my test. I knew
Oh,
You're
it
right.
because I was equipped. I had everything that I needed to succeed. So I thank you so much.
You
Like
are
I'm so grateful.
can
welcome.
I ask one quick question again? Did you break it down with subtract from and left the last one, or did you just go with that's the answer?
No, I was breaking it down. I was ruling each question, like answer out. Like, okay, that don't make sense. Is that in the question? Like, I would look at the answer to see if I seen that somewhere in the stem. If I did not see it, I ruled it out. Like, I can just hear Dr. Pam in my head.
Content,
Oh,
content, content. All
Yes,
and this is my
yes.
right.
second time, so
Okay,
thank you for
you're
coming on.
welcome. Yes, yes. I wanted to share it with somebody because
I
I just
am
wanted to
so
know.
proud.
Thank
Miss
you.
Natalie, what's your question?
What was the hardest question you can remember?
I would say the hardest questions for me were like the research questions. Those are tough, but those would be if you do know it, that would be like some freebies to get extra points. So yeah, I don't know if I did bad on them, but I really did good on human development. I needed like
Mm,
a four, it was like 40%, I mean 40 points. I got 32 points
good
out of
job.
40.
Girl, I don't
So
like that little T stuff, but I'm gonna do the little T. Miss Natalie,
so
you had any other questions?
I'm
Oh,
proud of you. I'm
thank
I'm proud
you.
of you.
I
You
am
are
too.
motivating
Well,
us.
how
Yes.
Hmm
long have you been studying with Miss Sherry and Dr. Pam?
So I came on in March. So well, it's March still. So I believe I started the groups. The first group it had to been like the end of February, the last week of February. I think that's my first one that I started. But I didn't start
Okay.
like my one-on-ones with Dr. Pam until like the first week of March. But I have been studying since like November by myself. So I used Ray Tooth program. I was using
Yeah.
that. It was helpful. But it was still something missing that I needed a little bit more. I needed that one-on-one because my mom also used Dr. Pam as well to help her get her independent license. So, the LCSW. So it was like cool for her. So she told me to come to work with Miss Dr. Pam as well. So,
Miss Sandra.
Um, I guess my question would be because I've been postmaster I got my master's in 23. So, and I guess my question is what helped you more? Is it the one-on-one or the study groups?
I think a combination of the both. Like
Okay.
honestly, because I could ask it just I did like the one-on-one though, so I can break down the questions by myself. Because sometimes I got a little nervous answering the questions in the group, and I might got them wrong. I knew it was the right answer in my head, but I would like second guess myself because it's a big group. But the
Okay.
one-on-ones gave me that chance to like break down the questions and to take my time and not be in a rush.
Yeah.
So I think one-on-ones are amazing. I highly recommend. Like
Oh, okay.
it's something that will add, but
Oh,
doing
okay.
both is great. But I also watching like the videos on YouTube every day. Like that
Right.
was my thing. Every day I didn't watch no TV. I was watching Dr. Pam. That's it. So,
Okay.
it kept me motivated.
Well,
Miss
when I did my master's, I used the Savvy way. And
Oh yeah.
that's how I learned how to break down the questions. But I always been watching Dr. Pam, and I kept saying when I get ready to do my clinical, think I'm gonna go with Dr. Pam because I've been watching her for about 2 years. So just
Okay.
going stealing her videos. So
Uh-huh.
that's what she wants you to
so
do.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
and I think I want to join the boot camp too, but I'll see.
Yeah. Nicole.
I just want to say congratulations
Thank
and thank
you.
you for coming on to tell us that you passed.
Yeah.
It's remarkable and wonderful to me because it encourages me, and I thank you.
Oh, of course. I'm glad that I was able to encourage you all today. I'm just grateful. So, yeah, keep going. Don't get discouraged.
Congrats.
But thank you so much. Just
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
Miss Sheila. What's your question?
Oh, I had already asked
Oh,
many
okay.
questions, but I do want to know. I did pay for boot camp. Can you tell me a little bit more about boot camp?
I'll do that in a minute because I want to give everybody an opportunity to
Okay,
ask the
okay.
question so I can get into class. Miss Crystal, you want to ask Miss Jones a question while you
Yes,
have her?
congratulations.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to ask you about your stamina. When did you notice that you were starting to get like tired? I do understand y'all get your 10-minute break, but
Yeah.
did you notice or did you have any awareness like, all right, I'm getting like a little tired, a little antsy or so? Did you notice like when you were starting to get to like number 50 or so, you was getting
Mhm.
like a little antsy, like, and then what did you do when you experienced that?
So I finished like the 85 questions and then I got the break. Like when I got to like 90, I was like, okay, like my mind I'm getting a little bit tired. So I just took a moment and honestly, I was just praying the whole time. Like that's what kept me going. And then I would write down like little motivational things on a little paper that they let you have. And I wrote down like it's already written, or write down some scriptures so I could remember to keep me going. So that just kept my mind focused during the exam because I knew that I was gonna pass that day. So just writing like a something encouraging to yourself will keep you going. Um,
This, one other thing I would like to add, when I'm taking like my practice tests, I think everyone should, take practice tests because then you can be able to see like when you start to get tired. Because I notice when I take practice tests, when I start getting around those 90s, I'm getting antsy, I'm getting tired. So I'm trying to build up that, so I'll be able to push through as well as still be able to answer the question in a proficient type of way. So it's good if everyone take those practice tests and, just to see when you start to like getting like a little tired and whatever you need to do. If you have to, take a extra walk or go to the bathroom, throw some water on your face and get some water, do whatever you got to do.
Okay.
mhm.
So everyone who just joined, if you've been in the class with Miss Asia Jones, she announced that she passed her exam. And so I was giving everyone an opportunity to ask questions. For those that just joined, if you ask a question, I'm gonna have to stop you at 2 minutes. So anyone want to ask a question really fast? Going once, going twice.
Can I ask something again?
Uh-huh.
I just want to say, at one time they allowed us to take the test. It was every 90 days. So I heard now it's different. It's every 30 days. Is that true? Do anyone know?
Oh, well,
No,
I
it's
know
that's not true. Is it?
I got the waiver. So when I missed it by the 4 points the first time, I was able to get a waiver. And then I was able to get another waiver when I missed it by the 3 points. So you have to, I think it's from like 1 to 10 points that you can utilize the waiver to
And that's
take.
the 30-day mark.
Mm-hmm.
But every test after that has to be 90 days because they have to reset the exam for you to make sure that you're getting a totally different exam from what you gotten previously. You out if like me, I took it 13 times. So at some point I was getting the same exam, but I may have gotten an exam 2 years ago that I was getting 2 years later. So really I wouldn't remember. My brain wasn't that big. Miss Jones, well, again, I always tell people I believe in God, so I hope I'm not crossing or stepping on anybody's toes. But girl, amazing. God was with you. One thing
Yes.
you was so confident, even just saying it, you was like, I knew I was gonna pass.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have that mentality, the affirmations you wrote on your whiteboard. So they give you a whiteboard, like she was saying, when you write on it, you cannot erase things off of it. She made it clear to you her first set was 85 questions. How long was your break after that
10
first set?
minutes.
10
10 minutes.
minutes.
And it go fast because like you had to sign back in and all of that stuff, but I made it quick. Like I went to the restroom and that was about it. But then that's when I took my break and came back, I started to feel like a little anxious again. So I had to get myself together. But like I said, I was just doing a lot of praying the whole time. Like
And do
that
you have to step away from the computer after that first set of questions?
you don't have to. You could like sit there if you wanted to do your break there. But I just like to get up and stretch a little bit. Wash my hands with some cold water, rinse my face off a little bit and kept going.
And remember, everyone, we're back at the Pearson Center. And then you have your last 85 questions. And then after that, you press the button and tell them what happens after you press the button.
And then after you press the button, you got to go through like a little series of questions, a little survey. And then after you do the survey, then it comes up, it says pass. So,
And
and
then
it
you
felt
go
really
out there and
good.
get your paper from the person. Okay,
Yep.
okay. You want to give us one question you remember?
I know it was a lot of well, for me, I had some community questions. I'm trying to think if I can remember it per se, but I can't really remember no more. But I know
It's
it was a lot of community like based questions. There were like I think the active listening like technique questions on there. I had a little bit of research. I really didn't have any medicine questions. Um, what else did I have? And I had a lot of school-based social work questions too.
okay.
A little bit of hospital, but the main was community. Like everything I studied this time around was on the test. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, community was my main thing. And that was my main struggle when I took it the first go around. So I was
Girl,
able to like redeem myself.
yay!
Yes.
Well, I want you to know someone from academic coaching will be giving you a call.
Okay.
They're probably gonna ask, can they use this as an interview?
Okay.
And if they do, they'll just share as an inspirational story with your permission. If you don't want to do this one, they will ask you to do an individual interview. Because again, I think I'm not even gonna say thank you. What I see is everybody comes here and then they pass and they don't want to let other people know. And the way we really thrive, especially as Black women, I'm not stepping on nobody's toes, but the test is different for us. I've expressed that before. So sometimes we need to hear, I'm sitting here teaching you, Dr. Pam teaching you, and you're like, okay, yeah, you said you took it 13 times, but look at the seat you're sitting in now. But when you see somebody who just passed, who you sat in a group with, it makes a big difference. So I say all that to say, Miss Jones, if someone call you, please
Okay.
say yes to that
Oh yeah,
interview.
of
Um,
course.
and if you want to stay with us, you can stay with us. But overall,
Mm-mm.
girl, I know you like, girl, I need a break. I
Yeah, I
get
need a break. My my
it.
my mind is tired. I start my
Mm.
new job on Monday, so everything and I got my license on Friday. So I reached out to the board on Friday, and they sent it right back to me on Friday. So
Do
everything
you mind
worked
telling
out.
us what state you're in?
Ohio.
Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay. Well, girl, I have to say it from one sister to another. I love you. Keep up the good
Yes.
work. Don't stop here. Go for the LC and
Yes.
remember us. So to everyone, everybody is called equal finality. We all have that path that we're taking, and that is something that shows up on the exam. We may not get there at the same time, but we all get there. So we're gonna clap it up again for Miss Jones.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Congratulations.
girl.
Thank you,
Thank
Thank
you
sir.
again
you.
for joining us.
Of course. Have a good
Uh-huh.
class.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
She's like, I'm out of
Wow.
here. So that ought to be motivation for you all tonight. We
Mhm.
are in the intervention process. I would give you all a little extra time. My grandson not here tonight, but it ain't to say he won't walk in.
Mhm.
But won't he do it? And
Yes.
yes, and so I really hope that encouraged someone.
Mhm.
So what we're going to talk about tonight, we want to do as many questions. I know those who are used to me, we do questions, but sometimes I really, really think we just need to focus on content. You all should know me by now. So some things in chapter 8, and I'm getting ready to pull this screen up. Y'all know how it is. Um, has anyone have any questions about the intervention process before we get into it? If not, we just gonna get to rolling here. So it's saying my screen is showing, but I want to ask you all, is it showing? It's not. It's not showing.
No.
It's buffering.
Okay. Xfinity is about to get kicked out. Okay.
Mhm.
Is it still buffering?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So one thing, I'm gonna go through some slides really quickly here, but one thing I want you all to know is something that's important to know, and it shows up on the exam, is the id, the ego, and the superego. And with the id, the ego, and the superego, it is so important because it's a characteristic that we all have. Now, I hope I don't step on nobody's toes, but this is your president right here. He has he and now you laugh, so I know you are going to remember. Nothing against the president, because the president is the president, but I have to say things that make you remember. And so what it is that, hey, I want what I want. And there's a thing called, you hear Dr. Pam talk about it all the time. We are humans and we are made to eat, sleep, and procreate. One thing about social work is that we have to learn how to speak the language of social work. And so we eat, we sleep, and we procreate, which means we engage with other individuals and we make children. And so there's a part of that when our id wants something, it's just want it. It's like, hey, we wonder, a lot of times you say, how did that person just, they stole the money the first time, they worked at the bank, and they just kept going, kept going, kept going, because their id was infatuated with that, and it was like, let me just keep doing it. And then you have your ego. Your ego is like, you have the good side and the bad side. I'm sure I'm an age now, but y'all remember they used to have the movies, and the person wanted to do something, the little angel show up on one side of the shoulder and the devil show up on the other side of the shoulder. So that's your ego. And so one part of you is saying, girl, you're not supposed to be stealing this money because you're going to need a job later and you working here at this bank. And then the other side, like, look, the bank ain't paying me nothing but $15 an hour. The rent is gone up, blah, blah, blah. So just go ahead and do it this one time. But, last time you took $2,000. This time just take $1,000. So that's how it is. And then you have your super ego, which really focuses on the things that you have learned. It's the things that has been instilled in you and taught to you. And so when you're wanting to do something, you can't because you're like, this goes against my morals and my values. So the id, the ego, and the super ego is very important, and it shows up in the exam, on the exam in ways of like behavior. It also shows up a lot of times in personality disorders. So that's how that works. Questions about the id, the ego, and the super ego. Okay, let me go to the next slide. I thought I saw Mastermind. Are you on here tonight?
Hi, I'm here. I'm
Okay, you're here.
driving my son to my mom's house, so that's why I got my camera on.
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
I'll be home soon.
Okay. So let me pull this up. So I plan on sharing some additional sides with you all before we get deep into content. And so with this slide here that should be showing on your screen, I hope it is. Again, I just want you to see the id, the ego, and the super ego working in a different way. So we have what you call the conscience. Sheila, what is the conscience? Uh-huh. I call on people, Sheila. She was like, this is not what I signed up for. You on mute.
You know what?
You can't
Today,
say you don't know.
I just want to listen
Your
and
con
just
your conscience is working right now, Sheila. What is conscience? Who want to help
conscious.
Sheila out?
Your awareness,
Conscious is well, is your mind how you're feeling.
Your awareness, yes. How
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
what's going on right now? So everybody conscience is working, unless you ate some big piece of chocolate cake and it's late in your zone, and I'm talking and I talk real mellow and slow, and you just like, oh Jesus. But your conscience is working. Your conscience is letting you know what's going on. Your conscience is allowing you to retain information. And then you have the pre-conscious. The pre-conscious lets you go all the way back. Kay, what's your elementary, your kindergarten teacher name?
It's been so long, I don't remember.
Girl, your pre-conscious ain't working.
I only lasted, I mean, to be fair, my dad said I only lasted 1 month in kindergarten and they promoted me. So
Oh, okay.
I
So
wouldn't
yeah,
know.
you was an advanced
I
student.
wouldn't know.
Well, your pre-conscious is like things that happen typically around the age of 4, between
Hmm.
4 and like high school. So you may be able to remember your we used to have what you call a landline. If
Yeah,
you can remember your landline telephone number, that's your pre-conscious working. If you can remember your first home address, your pre-conscious, your elementary school, things of that nature, that's your
yeah,
pre-conscious working. And then you have the unconscious. The unconscious is when if y'all ever watch, like, I watch those shows, they kill people. I'm not insane, y'all. It's just when you really get in debt with social work, y'all will start watching them too. But the unconscious, if you ever watch the show and they're in the interrogating room and the
mhm,
person just sitting there and they're like, I don't remember. Y'all saying y'all got me on camera shooting somebody 5 times. That's the unconscious. And what the unconscious does is it shuts down for a reason. It shuts down to protect us. So this is what happens when we work with victims in real life and on the exam that's been sexually abused or elderly abuse and things of that nature, especially if you have a little kid on the exam that was molested or raped under a certain, I'm gonna say typically under the age of 13, the unconscious just protects them. And so they start suppressing those feelings. And so the ego, and the super ego does work in those areas. Any questions about the conscious, the preconscious, and the unconscious? Okay. And you will get everything that I'm sharing with you. Again, because everyone learns different, we add different visuals so you can see things. The id, I want it right now. The super ego, good people. You got the good and the bad. I'm sorry, the ego, you got the good and the bad angels or the devil and the angel, whatever. And then the super ego is focusing on your morals. And so what you have to remember is that Freud's psychosocial stages does play a big role in the intervention process as well. This is not the course where I teach you about this, but this is in chapter 1. This is like human behavior. It's information you have to know. So just remember with Freud's psychosocial sexual stages, it kind of emulates Margaret Mailer work a little bit because it talks about the oil. And remember, oil is 0 to 2. This is when kids are babies and they're putting their hands and their toes in their mouth. And you're like, oh, they so flexible. But the thing is, that's just what it is. They're all into the sucking stage. Then when they turn 2, they start biting people. That's when you get the phone calls from the daycare. Your child and bit somebody. And so that's just normal. They're picking up things, they're crawling on the floor. And then you have anal 2 to 4. And so you have to remember this because the thing is, you can get this confused a little bit with Eric Erickson work. So Eric Erickson also, when we talk about it, the initiative stage, and so just getting the kids out there and doing things. And so in Freud's work, it's anal. That's when kids are being potty trained and things of that nature. Age 4 to 5 is the phallic stage. And so what you need to know on the exam is if there's a child that's age 4 or 5 and they're playing with themselves, if they're not identified as having a mental health challenge or disorder, it is normal. A lot of times we say, oh, that 5-year old, he's sitting there playing with his little wiener. And he must be seeing somebody doing something at home. That's why you have to assess. You have to assess to identify, is it something that's normal or is it something that he's seeing in his environment? Did anybody understand what I just said? Because this is where the test, a lot of times we see something like that and we're like, oh, that child is being abused. But if you know this stage, you know that it's normal. Then you have age 6 through puberty, which is roughly around 13, 14, sometimes 15 on the exam. And this is the latency stage. And so this is where we are now. If y'all like me, my mama be like, ooh, she's smelling herself. He's smelling himself. So this is the age where we're teenagers and now we like to touch and the little boys get aroused and little girls have these feelings within. And so I want to stop here and go back a little bit. If you are touched before the age of 13, that's where you start finding little girls that acts real wild when they're getting older, because when they was penetrated before the age of 13, their endorphins went off and now they have a craving for sex. And so this is where our id starts working. And so we have endorphins for that first time. The first time you kiss somebody, you say, oh, that feels so good. That feels so warm. And then you try to do it with the next guy or the next girl, and you're like, that don't feel right. You're not going to ever get that same drive again, that same feeling. It's the same thing for people who use drugs as well. And then you have puberty and onward, so 15 and up, and that's the genital, and that's where you have a lot of sexual exchange. It's supposed to be real now. It's direct, and you're not playing around anymore. Something else you need to know on the exam. before we really get into this section is the Oedipus and the Electra complex. Has anybody ever heard of the Electra complex? Raise the hand. A lot of times we hear the Oedipus, but we don't hear of Electra. So Electra is the
I
female.
have it.
You have
Yeah.
or have not?
Have.
What is
I
it?
have
Jessica, what is it? She can talk now,
it.
y'all.
Hello. Um, it is when the daughter is in love with the father
Mm-hmm.
or
And
has
it's
like a romantic feeling.
She has romantic feelings. And so this is where it has to be boundaries. Sometimes on the exam, this can look like enmeshment because the girl is so close to her dad and she's always in her dad's space. She doesn't like if mom do something that angers dad. She's going to take on those feelings like she's the wife. And so this was introduced by Carl Gunn, who you would never see his name on the exam, but this is also where the word daddy girls come from. And then you have the Oedipus complex, which is introduced by Sigmund Freud. And this is where you have the mama's boy. And if you have a boy, and I have a boy, y'all, he does not stay out of my space. Even at 18, I'm like, please, don't you see me in the bathroom? They just bust in. I'm like, I'm not your woman. Don't do that. But what I'm saying is they're always under mom. They're overly protective of mom. They don't like nobody to touch mom. If mom starts dating somebody new other than dad, they really get a complex. So remember, words are important. That's why the word complex is on the end because this can become complex. Anyone need me to describe this further? Going once, going twice. Okay. Another thing that comes up in the intervention process is transference and countertransference. I don't know how many times we can go over this, but somehow we still just cannot get it right. And so, transference is when your client feel some type of way about you. You resemble somebody that they know. And for an example, I always use the same example. Just say if your client comes in and your client is 17 and you're a mom and you have a 17-year-old daughter at home and you're having problems with your daughter at home, well, you may start emulating it. You may start showing it in the session. So you're like, oh, this girl, she's 17 like my daughter. I see why she in here talking about her mom don't like her because I don't like my 17-year-old daughter right now. So the client picks up on that feeling. And then the client starts saying, ma'am, do you have kids? Because you're talking to me like you're my mom and not like you're my counselor. So that's what transference is. And if you work in an agency or if you work in a private practice setting, with transference, your client can say, I cannot work with you anymore and I want a new therapist. So I want a new counselor, a case manager, a social worker. And you have to honor that. Now with countertransference is the therapist does not like this client, and it's showing. I'm gonna use the same example that I just got to using. It's showing because she's having problems at home with her 17-year-old daughter, and this 17-year-old client is in her office reminding her of her daughter, and it makes her angry every time she like, oh my God, she's coming in for session today. I really don't want to work with this young lady. And so you're the client, you're the therapist is bearing those unwanted feelings. They're uncomfortable. They don't want to work with this client. And so if you're working in private practice or an agency, guess what? If you're in private practice, you go consult with a peer. And all you can do is talk about this client you don't like. They're gonna say, girl, you're gonna have to put your big girl panties on and go back to that session and be nice to her. Or you go have supervision, but you cannot get rid of this client because you do not like them. Questions, comments, or concerns about transference and countertransference? So what you want to take away from countertransference is you don't like the client, you just have to deal with them. You have to work through your feelings through supervision. Defense mechanisms are real important when it comes to the intervention intervention process. I apologize. And so something I touched bases on earlier is like when I use a little girl, if she's molested or raped or whatever term you want to use before a certain age, then the conscience stops working. because it wants to protect her. And so, with that, this is where defense mechanisms come into place. And repression is what our clients, a lot of times when our clients deal with trauma, they repress those feelings. We be like, oh, we know something is going on here, but what is it? So the unconscious isn't working because something terrible happened to them. They put that feeling away and just don't want to deal with it. And so with denial on the exam, denial is often shows up in an individual with alcohol and drug issues. The reason is because I don't know, I care how many times you tell somebody who's an alcoholic or someone who's using drugs, like, you're intoxicated or you inebriated or you look like you're high. The first thing they're going to say is, I only had one alcohol beverage. Who gets drunk off of one beer? That's denial. Denial is anything that's the truth. You know it's the truth, but a person is going to try to make sure that they cover it up and just don't stick to it. Projection you see a lot on the exam. Projection is when somebody just say today is my real hair, but just say if I had a wig on today and you're like, I really don't like the wig, but I paid $200 for it, so I got to get my $200 out of this wig. And you come up to me, Nicole, and say, your hair it's cute. And I just blow off because I really don't like the wig. And so I start saying, hey, and just putting it back on you. So I'm projecting my feelings onto Nicole. I really don't like the wig. She gave me a compliment, but I'm going off on her. So remember, projecting is putting my feelings onto somebody else. Displacement is when you're angry at somebody else. You're angry at your boyfriend or your husband, but then you come home and you kick the cat out the way, or you kick the dog. Now you're displacing your feelings. Or you slam your car door real hard. And if your car door could talk, it'd be like, baby, I'm not the one who woke up with you this morning. I didn't make you mad. So why are you slamming me? So that's what displacement looks like. And then you have regression. It's just going back. This is a lot of times when somebody has had a traumatic situation that happened to them, and they just really go back to a baby stage. They can start balling back up, sucking a thumb, talking like a baby. On the exam, you will also see this when a new baby is brought into the family, and then the 5-year old see that the newborn is getting all the attention, so the 5-year old starts sucking from a bottle. He's like, boy, you ain't had a bottle since you was 3. And so they're regressing. And then sublimation is when you substitute something bad for something good. So although you may have anger issues and you always going around want to fight people, instead you'll go to a kickboxing class, 3 times a week or every night if your anger is really bad. Any questions about the defense mechanisms? Okay. Um,
I wanted to
Another thing,
say about the which one? I don't know. Let me see.
I'm going back.
Okay, the sublimation.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what happened with Mike Tyson. He was fighting, and then they got him to go into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what you do is you take something bad and you turn it in something purposeful with a meaning behind
Yeah.
it, or what society would see as bad. You can't just go around whooping up on people. But now he get paid for doing this. So thank
Yes.
you,
A lot of
Shannon.
those cage fighters too.
Yeah, yeah. So congruent and incongruent, this is so important to know on the exam as well, because what we have to know is that our tone should match what we're saying. So if somebody is saying, yeah, I am so happy on the inside, me and my husband, we really working things out. Girl, I'm just fascinated. But I'm looking dry. So that's what it's incongruent. And actually, this is something that shows up on the MSE. Crystal, what is MSE? What do those acronyms stand for?
Mental, that's status examination.
Girl, okay. Yes. So when you're doing your MSE, part of it is you looking for congruency. So if your client is talking one way, but they talking real low, but they smiling, you gotta assess that. you got to ask additional questions, and that's part of the intervention process. Sherry, I see you smiling, but you look real low. Are you high? Are you intoxicated? Is something going on? Is something mental? And remember, we can ask our clients questions. They will clarify for us. So remember that. Let's see. Because I might
And
not be.
Sherry,
Uh-huh.
okay, can you do congruence again? You said they facial expression have to match what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, it's incongruent. So you're gonna be like, what you're saying and how you look is incongruent because it doesn't match.
yeah,
So if it's congruent with what I say, my energy matches me moving and all that other stuff. But if I'm like, y'all are really a lively crowd, but I'm just sitting here uptight, it just doesn't match. And
okay,
so that's the indicator for you to further assess your client because remember, we assess off of what we see as well as how they speak or what they're telling us.
okay. Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome. Remember, we have stages of change. That's part of the intervention process. And remember, intervention is something once we collected information from our client while they're coming to see us, then we do our assessment. Then we start, putting an intervention in place so they can work on their problem and get some type of resolution to it. So the stages of change is, yeah, and it took me years to get this. And they teach us this in undergrad and grad school. But you got pre-contemplation. So pre-contemplation is I know my clothes do not fit me anymore. I used to be, and this is just an example, but I used to be 200, I used to be 150 pounds. Now I'm 180 pounds. My best pair of jeans just don't fit anymore. And everybody around me is like, girl, look like you putting on a little weight. And I'm like, no, they crazy, but I know I'm in denial, but I just know. So I'm in the pre-contemplation state. Like I'm thinking about it because I heard it multiple times and my clothes telling me, girl, we ain't the 150 anymore. So the contemplation stage is where I'm like, you know what? This I tried to put on another pair of jeans. It ain't working. Now I'm a shirt rolling up when I put it up. So now I am going to go invest into like a fitness coach. So that's the contemplation state. I got there. I'm talking to a fitness coach. They're telling me how much it's going to be. I'm having second thoughts about this. Girl, it's gonna cost me $200 a month to meet with you to lose weight. I can do this on my own, but no, I really couldn't. And now I'm in the preparation state where I'm really taking action. I have paid my fitness coach the money. We got a plan together. I go grocery shopping on Saturday. I meal prep on Sunday. And I work out 3 days a week like I supposed to. Then, so you got your action, you doing it. I'm seeing some benefits to it. We might need to, my coach and I talk every 3 weeks to see if we need to modify anything. She's like, okay, I see you went down 2 pounds. Let's do such and such and such because the goal is for you to lose inches, not weight. So we do a modification. We still working in action. And then I go over to the maintenance stage where I'm sustaining this look. I'm still every 3 weeks, I'm losing a pound and a half. And then I relapse. I keep going into all my friends want to go out to eat. I'm tired of bringing my little box lunch with me while they sitting there eating steak and potatoes. I'm eating a salad in a container and I relapsed. So now I go back to my old habits. And that was a true story. Now I'm just joking. But this is what the stages of change look like. Anybody struggles with this because I did. Gloria, you okay over there? Miss Gloria, you okay?
Hi, Miss Sherry. Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, I saw you looking up. I was like, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, I have another screen.
Oh,
So,
okay. So remember on the exam, you will see this actually with a lot of alcohol and substance abuse users, but you'll also see it with people who just are in denial with anything. Okay, let's see what else. You will get this. So some things that I'm going on over past is your responsibility. I'm trying to hit the things that I think really important. So you also need to learn the order of children. The firstborn, is always the one that's in control of everything. They're the first. So, when they're bossy, they're the leader, they're the one that the parents often took time out to do everything with. It was a little trial and error with them. And now you have a middle child that comes along, and the middle child often feels left out. If you're the middle child, it's just like, what happened? And so the middle child is often the rebellious child too. They have to learn how to do things on their own. And then the last child, that's me. We run everything. We are the mascot. We the one who bring charm to everything. We're outgoing. And y'all, my middle sibling, he is really crazy. He's like different. Everybody's like, what's wrong with him? But he really don't like me because I came along, and then the firstborn and I, we are 25 years apart, and everybody think he my daddy, but he also sometimes want to act like my daddy. So yeah, my oldest brother and I are 25 years apart. It's 5 kids, 4 boys, 1 girl in that order. My mom and daddy decided to have me after 40. Uh, yeah. And then the baby boy and I are 8 years apart. So, and then you have that only child, the only child syndrome. They always seeking approval. So if you work in a school or anything like that, the child that's always around you, they're confident because they had to learn how to do things. They watch older people do stuff. So next time you're working with kids, pay attention to that. Questions about that order.
Miss Cherry, I have a question.
Mhm.
Where does this fit into the human development in the first category? Does this fall into systems, or how does this the firstborn, middle, last, and only child fit into
Okay.
the KSAs?
Family systems for sure. And with us focusing on intervention tonight, when you have a family and you're working with them, you have to know the order of kids because it determines on the test who created the problem. A lot of times it's going to be like if there's 3 kids and on the exam, the last child has health issues. Then what ends up happening is that child gets all the attention, and then you have issues with the firstborn, not as bad as the middle child. The middle child is already thrown off, they're lost and feel left out, and they feel more excluded now because that new child has come along with health issues. So when it comes to the family system and putting in an intervention, you got to put in an intervention that fits the entire family and not just one individual. Because if you single somebody out, it's not solving the problem, it's only making the problem worse. I hope I tried to explain it quick but thorough. Did it make
Okay,
sense?
that works. Thank
Okay.
you.
And then another thing too, Gloria, uh, with the order of the children too, a lot of times the parents are like, the firstborn is older now and he's in high school, and since he's been in high school he's acting different and we don't know what's going on. Or if it's the oldest child and now they're in high school, that's a combination of, again, family systems, Eric Erickson 8 stages of development when you come to role confusion and identification. So you have to be able to differentiate between those, but again, you still have to know what intervention to put into that family in order
Mm-hmm.
to help them. And more than likely, you're going to be educating the parents to let them know that it's normal. What he's going through
Mm-hmm.
is a phase.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So when it comes to intervention, there are techniques that we as social workers must know and use. First of all, you have to make your client trust you. There are test questions that says you just have to be honest. I use the example all the time. Whether you're virtual or face to face, and you constantly looking to the left, and your client say, "Miss Shearer, are you paying attention to me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was paying attention to you," but they clearly saw that I wasn't. So no, you just tell them, "Yeah, I was looking to the left. I thought I heard something." You don't have to go into a full definition behind it, but be honest. Other techniques that we use is we have to understand, we have to encourage encouragement. And so what you have to remember is in the social worker helping process, it is A for assessment. Anybody know what comes after A? It starts with a P. Y'all don't know the social worker helping process?
Planning,
Is it plan?
Planning, yes.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what comes after planning?
intervention,
What comes
Intervention,
after that?
evaluation,
And what's last?
termination.
There you go. The social worker helping process is used throughout the exam. So you have to know that. Again, it's assessment, plan, intervention, evaluation, and termination. And so in this, you are, when it comes to planning, you don't plan for your client. Uh-oh, I'm sorry, somebody asked me something.
No, I was just using the acronym. I said,
Oh,
eat a pie today.
uh-huh. So you don't plan for them, you plan with them. And that's when you encouraging them. And then you have to understand transference and resistance. That's why I showed you the picture of transference earlier. If your client comes in and really like you, and then all of a sudden they start pulling back, you like, man, my client used to be honest with me. Now they come in, they got their arms crossed, it's everything is real short. That's the time where you assess for transference and you ask them, is it something going on? Is it something that happened since the last session? Is it something about me? So you may have to ask multiple questions because you're probing, but those are techniques: probing, clarification, summarization, things of that nature. And then you do role playing, especially when you have families. Miss Gloria, this kind of goes back to the family piece, the role playing. So you may want to ask the middle child to act out the first child's role. And that's how you can see how the middle child looks at the first child. The first child be like, I don't do that. Or that's you see me like that, you perceive me like that. And so the other thing is paradoxal intentions. And paradoxal is when you're kind of like, you step in as the therapist and work with the family. So you kind of mimic their behavior after you've done an assessment. You got the information about them. So you start coming, especially in family therapy, you start acting like them. And they're going to start saying, oh my God, that's how daddy be acting. So now you're going, everybody can see things as a whole and from a different perspective. So paradoxical intention is not the same as role playing. Do not get that confused. And you always give your client, you should be giving your clients homework. Questions, comments, or concerns about techniques? Oh, let's see. Okie dokie. So I am going to stop with this. You all will get this. As you can see, it's 51 slides in here. And so it would be something you can go over and, ping questions or whatever. I am about to go into chapter 8 in Don Apgar book. It's coming up, you all. I think my neighbor's having a party. Okay. Questions come out to comments or concerns while this is coming up?
You said paradoxal techniques is not which one of those?
Role playing.
Thank you.
And paradoxal also would show up on the exam, as you, as a therapist, can have a paradoxal effect with their client. It's like the cousin to transference and countertransference. So this is where you have your client that comes in and she's a single mom and she have two kids and her kids play baseball and she owns property and she had a bad breakup, and you're like, oh my God, that's me. So paradoxal is when your client can also look like, well, your client looks just like you. And so guess what ends up happening, Nicole? You want to be what instead of what?
What you mean? What do
You
you mean?
want to be a friend,
Oh,
Friend.
a
okay.
friend to your client and not their therapist, because they look so much like you.
Oh, and that's not
Yeah.
good. I want to be okay.
It's not good.
Okay.
So I just
Dr.
gave you all
Sherry,
the definition. Anybody have any questions
I,
about that?
I have a question. So is that the same thing as the parallel process?
Parallel and paradoxal. Yep.
if we see parallel, it can also mean paradoxal.
Paradoxal,
Okay.
because you're implementing it. And a lot of times you're going to see parallel on the exam too. So you have parallel transference and counter transference.
Okay.
All right. We are about to get into this. So the reason I teach like this is because one of the things, Dr. Pam, and I really want you all to understand is we read, but a lot of times we don't understand what we're reading. And it's because we have a life going on. And so that's why we're here. But when we give you the information, especially when I give you information like this, I ask that you please read it. Even if you just copy, paste it, and put it on a Word document, press the word review, it will read it out loud for you. But you have to learn the content. If you just do test questions every day, there is a 50% chance that you would not pass the exam. And it really is like a 55% chance that you would not pass the exam. Because when you do test questions, you memorize stuff. When I have individual sessions, I give my clients a set of questions at the beginning, and then I give them the same set of questions. They answer those questions, send me the answers in midway or either at the end. I give them those same questions again, and guess what? Do you think they get the same answer? No. Because when we're doing practice tests, we're memorizing the stuff. And there's still content in there. So I put that disclaimer out there to say we're going into chapter 8, Dunn Apgar. This is and I'll send the book to you all, but this is a LCSW, the second edition that I'm teaching from, but it's still good material. And so which the first thing you have to know in the intervention process is that what we're about to talk about at this moment is the principles and techniques of interviewing. Interviewing is basically supporting your client. You build a rapport with them, a rapport, clarifying, focusing on your client. You got to stay focused on the client. When can you confront a client? Who? Let's see, Crystal. No, Sheila. Have I called on you? Sheila, have I called you already? Okay, Crystal, Sheila, like going on now. Crystal, when can you confront a client?
Um, when you guys had an agreeable agreement, like for example, if you stated you were going to I don't know, 10 several sessions, and then you failed to meet two of them, then you're not confronting them, but you kind of like just bring to your attention, remember that this is something we say we're going to do. So you're not confronting them, but you are addressing the issue,
Yeah.
not in a confrontational type of way.
There you go. Now if they don't come to two of them sessions, now don't confront them because you can lose them. So I like that you said non-confrontational way. A lot of times you can confront your client when they are alcohol and substance use clients. The reason is they're so thick in denial. And so, Crystal, you made a good point too. So, those clients that are in denial, one client you could potentially confront on the exam are like mandated clients, but you still have to be careful with it. So that's why we teach you content, because you have to be able to read the question and say, is this a mandated client that I can confront, or is this a mandated client I have to be non-confrontational with and just address stuff with? So thank you, Crystal, for bringing it up. You also have to know when to validate, provide feedback, know how to reflect. You have to be able to know language differences. So I I have a private practice, and in Memphis we have it bad saying man. I probably do it here unconsciously. I get to talking, I be like, yeah, man. And and my clients often be like, did you just say man? So you have to be able to understand language. So I give a disclaimer when I talk to my clients. I'm like, look, you got a black country therapist here in Memphis, Tennessee, and occasionally I may sound like Glorilla. And so I've already given them that disclaimer. So if I slip up and say main in the session, they get it. But I also have to make sure I understand my clients' language. They may use slang. I have young clients and they be saying stuff. That's how I learned that T stuff. I was like, what is this girl Sherry. She was like, Miss Sherry, girl, that tea. I was like, what is this girl doing to me over here? I said, baby, I'm sorry. What are you doing? She's like, oh, you old. But this is what language differences and stuff look like. And so you also have to know the proper use of interpretation, which on the exam, the last person you should be using is a family member. So keep that in mind. And how to redirect. So redirecting is when you have a client that loves to talk, and I have some clients, I'll be like, Lord, when am I going to be able to get in there and say something? And so you have to slow them down. You have to come back in and say, I have a client, she's bipolar. And so sometimes she be on one. I have to girl, and ADHD. I'll be like, wait a minute, you didn't finish what you were saying in the last sentence. So you have to keep redirecting them. And so in the intervention process, which you have to understand, and I'm reading the bold information, is the action of a social worker is to gather important information. You got to keep the client focused because you have to achieve a goal. Your clients would tell you, hey, I came into this session because I need help with my utility bill, or I'm having issues with finding the proper care for my child. Department of Children's Services isn't doing anything. So you got to be able to help them achieve that goal, and they want to be able to see that. So questions, that you should have questions tailored to your client. What you have to understand is this is not a one size fit all type thing. You may have three clients, three boys with ADHD that are all 12 years of age, but whatever intervention you did with boy A, you may not be able to do it with boy B and boy C. So make sure you're not using this cookie cutter process. And so when you put an intervention in place, yeah, you may be using the positive reinforcement system for all of them, but you may not have everybody getting a chocolate chip cookie. So you got to focus on the uniqueness of a client and his or her situation. So the other thing you need to know is when it comes to communication during your social work interview, which is also the assessment. And again, this is you, in order to come up with your intervention, you got to ask your client questions. You're asking them specific questions, and the importance of the words in the message may be implicit. This is a word you need to know. This is social worker talk. Implicit means implied, or explicit means evident. So those are two words that you have to know. And so I'm giving you an additional example of it explicit. It's the conscience. I keep talking to y'all about the conscience. Knowledge. So when something implicit is going on, you talking to your client who has current awareness. Their conscience is working. Now, if your client is on the implicit side, the unconscious is working. You're like, man, why am I not getting anywhere with this client? It's because their unconscious isn't. It's everything is shut off. They are in protective mode. So again, everything on the implicit side, it makes it a little bit easier for you to work with your client because they can talk to you. They're conscious. They're gonna give you the feedback. They have those flexible expressions, and stuff is developing the way Eric Erickson would say it's developing. Whereas again, on the implicit side, there's low performance, it's resistance, the developmental stage is not where it needs to be, and it's because something got cut off somewhere when they was traumatized. As a social worker, it is your job. Our code of ethics says that when we come in to our job and clock in until we clock out, whatever, whoever you are, I am Sherry Bogart. I am a black female, Memphian, African American. I can be hood, I can be ghetto when necessary, when needed, and I can also be professional. I may not like a certain group of people, but when I clock in at 8 o'clock, all of that goes out the window. I have to treat my clients where I have to talk to them where I know, and I have to listen to them. And if they come in, I'm non judgmental. I have clients that I work with to this day that are part of the LBGT plus, that are Jews, that are Muslims, and they be like, "Man, I feel more comfortable talking to you than I feel comfortable talking to an LBGT plus uh, counselor." And it's like, I'm here to help, not judge. And your clients will know. And the way this shows up in an exam question is when you have agencies that does not want to serve different types of groups. So that's how it shows up on the exam. Questions, comments, or concerns at this moment?
Can you give a maybe a question example?
Um, so if your client comes in and say that they're a sex addict, and they come in and the intervention is that instead of them having sex 3 times a day with 3 different women, and this is not a text question, but trying to give you something to look at, you put the intervention in place and you said, well, instead of having sex 3 times a day, you're going to have sex 2 times a day. And you're going to talk to them in a tone instead of like, what? You had like a rabbit or something. You having sex 3 times a day, 7 days a week? So you see how the tone changed and everything. You're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, because your clients will be like, "Hey, I know you probably think something wrong with me. I want to have sex 3 times a day." So something on the exam will show up like to the effect of during the interview, the client is working with it's often going to be LGBT plus on the exam, and they come in and they want a particular service and another agency didn't give it to them, so you're now offering it to them, and they're going to come in and be like, well, the other agency wouldn't help me, so I hope you help me because I'm part of the plus community. And you're like, yeah, I am going to help you, and then after I help you, I am going to help you file a lawsuit or a complaint against the other agency that wouldn't help you. So that's how it shows up on the exam a lot of times with plus questions.
Okay.
Did it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So universe, y'all. Some words I can't say, and it's one of them, universalization. So I'm not going to get into that one. That one shows up on the exam, but for the sake of time, what you really need to know is clarification. Clarification, you make sure that you're on the same wave page as the wavelength as the client. So I heard you say da 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 da. Is that correct? And they're going to come back and say yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Confrontation, again, confrontation, you have to know when to use it, because if you use it incorrectly, you will lose your client. But you can confront individuals that using alcohol or drugs. Interpretation is a lot of times your client will not like you doing interpretation, because that means you're like trying to finish their sentence. Don't do that. Let them just say what they need to say and then come back for clarification. But sometimes you do have to interpret stuff because they won't tell you everything. And sometimes they don't have to tell you everything. So keep that in mind. Summarization. This does show up in the exam. It's when you're bringing back those important points. You're coming to the end of a session or you're trying to come to the conclusion of something. So this allows you to again be on the same page with the client, but you're using that good information and it's coming towards the end of it's at the end of the session. Questions, comments, or concerns about those?
Miss Sherry, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
For you just talked about universalization,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like clarifying. So how could we tell the difference in a question when it comes to the word clarification? Because clarification is like a reformulation.
So clarification is like, well, I will come back to you and say, so are you trying to ask me how do you look for this on the exam?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm doing. I'm clarifying with
Yeah,
you.
that's the clarification. Okay.
Uh-huh. Did it make
So it
sense?
comes off more like a question.
Yes.
Okay.
I said as close to what you said that I heard. So the clarification also, once I say it back to you, if that wasn't what you was trying to say to me, you would have came back and said, no, that's not exactly what I'm trying to say.
Got it. Okay.
Did that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then how would you say that in a, what's it, universalization?
So with universalization, you actually, who's talking?
So,
Okay, I want you to read the for instance. That'll give me time to drink some water.
okay, all right. For instance, a young person has finally come out about being gay and is feeling isolated and rejected by family and friends. As this is not an uncommon feeling for a person in this situation, it is useful for a professional to help them to understand that there are many other people feeling or has felt the same way.
So what is that saying?
Uh, this technique is used to demonstrate to clients that their feelings and experiences are not unique and that they're shared by other members. Basically, it's saying that you're not the only person going through this.
Yes. Now you have to be careful how you use
Well, I'm
that
not.
because again, you don't want somebody to think it's a cookie cutter thing. But we have to let people know you ain't the first person that's gay. You're not the first person that lost their apartment. You're not the first person that lost their job. So that's what universalization is. We all at some point gonna have an issue that looks like somebody else's issue. Now, after we bring it to them that they're not the only person, we're gonna come back around and tailor that conversation just to focus on that individual. You're not the first person that failed your exam, that didn't pass your exam the first time. So you get it. So you're normalizing that feeling. Uh-oh. Did I make it clear?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So, um, summarization statements. Jessica, read all three.
Summarization statements can include a social worker saying, "Have I got this correct? You have said that, and during that past hour, you and I have discussed."
So that's what summarization is at the end. Remember, social workers must be proficient in language spoken by clients or use qualified interpreters. Um, our code of ethics does not say we can't use online interpretation. But our code of ethics expects us to understand if we're going to use some type of interpreting service that's AI, best we know it needs to be HIPAA compliant. And so I put that out there because a lot of us are virtual, and some of us don't have the platform where you can call up an interpreter. You will see questions that's and also if you don't, you say you accept Spanish speaking clients and your Spanish is like a 3 year old, don't do that. So be mindful of what you're putting out there on your profiles. And this is stuff that does show up on the exam because it's making sure it's going back to that you are competent in what you're saying you're able to do. The test wants you to know that family members are the last persons you need to use as an interpreter. You will see questions on the exam like somebody came in to find out they came into an HIV clinic and they had their 6 year old daughter with them, and they're coming back today and they're going to get their test results. And the agency does not have a Spanish speaking person on site. So you're not going to go to the daughter, the 6 year old daughter, and ask her to read her mom test results stating that she's HIV positive. What you would do if there's nobody in your agency, you don't have access to an interpreter service, you use your better judgment, you have her to come back and you have something set up when she returns. And so the question is going to be assessing you to see if you know when to use a family member. Questions, comments, or concerns?
So in that situation, we basically would use the family member to say, well, we're going to reschedule the appointment for them to come back for someone else. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's
Yes,
a heavy thing for a 6-year-old.
because it's inappropriate. You first of all, you have to understand the law of giving somebody their HIV results. And I mean, it could be diabetes. Regardless, it's somebody's medical information that you just don't do that. You can use if the janitor knows Spanish, you can pull him into the office. The reason you can use the janitor is because he works at that company. So he's withheld by the same standards as everyone else. So read the question just to see what it's asking you. Pay attention to the answer choices. And also for interpreter services, uh, if you ever work with an interpreter service, it is very interesting. So even if you have an interpreter on the phone or if they're in the room with you, you have to look at the client the whole time while they're talking. So they may be looking at the client if the interpreter is in the room with you, they can look at the client or they can look at you, but you got to still look at the client. If they're on the phone and the client is on the phone with the interpreter, and just say it's on speaker, it should be on speaker, you still have to look at the client the whole time. Did y'all know that? Yep. Because the interpreter is not the provider, they're just the interpreter. Let's see. Remember, you have to always address the problem first. When a client comes in and they're telling you, you say, so what do you want to work on today? And they're like, oh, I'm having issues with my kids, my husband, and my job. At that point, you're going to tell them they need to break it down and identify which item they want to work on first. Once you all start working on that, and that's called prioritization. So they have to prioritize what they want to work on first. And they're like, oh, well, my job is the most important thing. And believe it or not, what you 9 times out of 10 find out is the job is the reason that they're having the issues they're having at work is the reason they're having issues with their child and their spouse because they're coming home and doing what? It starts with a D and it's a defense mechanism.
Displacement.
Yes, they're coming home and displacing those feelings on their spouse and their kids because they're having issues at work. So once they partialize and break it down, when you start talking about work, they be like, oh, okay, I see. This is what's going on. And then once you outline and get a treatment plan, and remember, a treatment plan is going to have a goal and an objective based on the issue. So you're going to say the goal is that the client would not come home and curse her kids and her husband out at least one day only, or she only do it 3 days out of a week instead of 5 working days. So that's the goal, and then the objective is going to explain what the steps she's going to take, and when she pull up in the driveway at home, she's going to breathe in and breathe out 3 times. When she walk in the door, she's gonna put a fake smile on her face. And then when she see her husband, she just gonna give him a hug. And she gonna say, don't say anything. Then she gonna run to the bathroom and she gonna scream. And then she gonna come back. So that's what that in that treatment plan outline step by step what the client is going to do in order to become better in their goals or going towards meeting their goals. Questions, comments, or concerns? So as you notice,
I have a question. So what's the difference between a treatment plan and a SMART goal, or is it the same?
a SMART goal is something where it can be the same, but we are using SMART goals in real life. It's not showing up as much on the exam because it's a new terminology for social workers. SMART was initially used for businesses and for individuals that were going through A&D treatment systems. So we as social works we just adapted this. I can't give you an exact time frame, but it hasn't been long since we adapted it. But it can be something used, but I don't want to say at this point it's taking over a treatment plan because when you're doing your SOAP notes, you must have a treatment plan. Anytime you're working in private practice or agency, you should have a treatment plan. A SMART goal is something that can be used, however, as a homework assignment, so it can be part of your intervention. So, just say if they need to see something, outline a different way it could be used. I use smart with a lot of my couples so that they can write their specific thing and they can measure it and put a time frame on it. I use it with my couples and couples therapy. I talked about this before I move on. Did that make sense? Okay. So we talked about micro, meso, and macro the last time I did a group. Just remember, micro is individual, meso, it can be MESO or MEZZO. So remember, these are smaller groups, families. It could be a small community, and the macro is like a big community, politician, and all that stuff. Questions, comments, or concerns? We talked about the social worker helping plan. One thing I do want to add is a lot of times you will see engagement before you see assessment. And engagement is just when you first meet with your client. It's like the introduction, but for the most part, the social worker helping plan is going to be APIET. Questions, comments, or concerns? Oh, excuse me. I hope y'all didn't hear that. Questions about micro, meso, and macro? Okay. So I do want to say on a macro level, if you want to be a rich social worker, become become a politician social worker. You can really make a lot of money because in that role, what you're doing is advocating for policies and things of that nature. You have to do a lot of Capitol Hill events, and believe it or not, there's quite a few of us that have seats. So we are change makers, and really, it is our job to be going to the Capitol Hill. The social worker Capitol Hill Day, you should be going to it. So when it comes to problem solving models and approaches, the things you need to understand is the models and approaches, they are either brief, solution focused, and you have a technique that you're using. Not a cookie cutter technique, but you have a technique. And so in this, what it says is, Miss K, just read that first sentence for me, please.
Oh, okay. The problem solving approach is based on the belief that an inability to cope with a problem is due to some lack of motivation, capacity, or opportunity to solve problems in an appropriate way.
Thank you. So it goes on to say that clients' problem solving capacities or resources are maladapted or impaired. So when they come to us, they don't know how to solve the problem. What do anybody remember what Miss Jones said earlier? She said, I was studying on my own, but something was missing. So where did she come?
Here.
To get training,
Came here to
to
get
get
trained.
teaching. Hmm.
Yes, that's what goes on with our clients. They're like, okay, I tried to stop drinking on my own. I tried this on my own. It's not working. I got to go get help. So that's that pre-contemplation stage that Miss Jones was in at first. She's like, I can do this on my own. Then her mama was like, nah, baby, you need to go on over there to Pam or you need to do whatever. So that's where the contemplation came in. And y'all see how I put that in there so you're going to remember now. But that's what goes on with our clients. So it's the same thing. And so that's how the social work problem solving process looks. We show it to you probably in every session. And I strongly encourage you the day you take your test, just go ahead and write APIET on your little whiteboard because it can help you throughout the whole time. What you need to now understand with short-term goals is or short-term interventions, it is typically these are clients where they may have EAP that they're coming to see you in real life, or they may have an HMO insurance that only pay for X amount of counseling services. But you will know, and if you work in an agency, your agency already have that information. So when they give you assign you a client, they're like, "Hey, Miss Sandra, you only gonna see this person 4 times." So if you remember when I talked about, I don't know who I've been on what sessions, but I tell you about the type of social workers. And in essence, we should all think like hospital social workers. We should think on the capacity that we're going to be terminating them while we're
Hmm.
meeting with them. And so you should often have that mindset, but that's what short-term interventions look like. You're putting something in place because you know you're not going to be working with them long, but you want to make sure something comes out of this. I have some clients, I'm only able to work with them 3 sessions, And I never said to them, but when I get that, I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do with 3? But by the time they come to me, I'm like, y'all, we gotta do this. And they leave by the third session. They're like, you know what? I learned something. So that's the thing. We have to be quick in our thinking. Questions about short-term interventions. My screen doesn't show everybody, so if I call the same people, it's because that's only I see you. So Jessica, I do want you to read that sentence on the short-term interventions.
Short term interventions vary greatly in their duration. Research suggests that social work and clients' views on the time of treatment are more important than the duration of treatment itself.
So that goes back to what I just said. When I see the authorization, I'm like, 3 sessions? What they want me to do with 3 sessions? But I can't bring that feeling over into the session. So when the client be like, I only have 3 sessions, I be like, girl, when you leave me, you gonna have a skill. So you have to make sure you're encouraging them. Did that make sense? Okay. So short-term interventions is a lot of times it's going to be crisis on the exam. So when that client comes to you, or either the insurance company told you you only have a short period of time with them. So when that client comes to you, they're in crisis state. So you're not going to be asking about stuff when they was 5 years old. You're going to be focused on the here and now. You're going to get the information for right now. You're going to focus on their thoughts, because their thoughts and their beliefs is it's all over the place right now. And so once you look at this, you got your thoughts and your beliefs. Remember, your thoughts are going to make you behave a certain way. If you feel like, oh, my life is turned upside down and you depressed, your behavior is going to show that. You may not take a bath, you may be missing time from work, and so your emotions are going to be affected. You're real blue, or you're crying all the time, you're angry. So that's what looks at the situation as a whole. So with the crisis, if the crisis exceeds past 6 to 8 weeks, it's no longer a crisis. That means if you are a crisis social worker or a crisis case manager, if it's gone longer than 6 to 8 weeks, then you need to talk to your client about moving them over to some type of long-term outpatient therapy. Questions, comments, or concerns? Remember, several short-term psychodynamic approaches focus on the belief that childhood experiences are the root of adult dysfunctions. So wherever a child was damaged when they were younger, it is going to spew over into their adult life. Has everyone heard of the ACEs? ACEs, ACE.
No, I
First
haven't.
childhood experience?
So if you have not, one thing I challenge you is, when we end this call tonight, is to Google ACE. So what this is, we should be doing it with all our clients, because it lets us see they answer. It's like 8 or 10 questions, uh, all the way up, whatever happened from them from like 5 up to the age of 18. And it's like, have you ever stayed with a parent that's been to jail? Have you ever been slapped? Have you ever not had food? Because a lot of times our clients don't recognize that they was raised in an environment that wasn't healthy for them. And so after they complete the ACE, they're like, oh, and it gives them a score. And I would suggest you do it for yourself, but make sure you answer the questions correct. So that's what the ACE does, is help us find out, like, if we got a 30-year-old client and he does the ACE and he have a score of an 8, we like, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work with him. And then you have the problem solving process. And this is how clients often tend to think of themselves, and that their problem is unique. That's where the universalization comes into place. Is it all making sense now? Who asked me the question about universal? See, there we go. So when that comes into place in the problem solving process, you have the client be like, I'm the only one that's going through this. In my head, I'd be like, baby, just share it, get your words right. I'm like, no, you're not the only person that's going through this. However, your issue is unique in its own way. And let's work on how we're going to get something taken care of. And so what you want to do is help them take away that thought and let them know that let them feel unique, but at the same time, you're going to educate them and pull them out of their fear or their discomfort. Like the example we went over earlier, the guy came out and said he was gay and he felt like, what was going on. So you're going to bring him out of that discomfort zone. You're going to make him recognize what's going on. There's other gay people out there, and help him become comfortable with who he is and keep it moving. Questions, comments, or concerns?
If we don't, you're right, if we don't explain to them that, or that they're not the only person that's going through some of these things, they will leave your office thinking that they're doomed and that they're the only one going through it.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, Nicole. That goes back to, we have to be honest with our clients. A lot of times we're like, oh, in your head, you're quickly thinking like, I don't want to say this. And it's a technique. I talked about techniques earlier, and part of the technique is they're coming to you. If they came out of the pre-contemplation state and came to you in the contemplation state, they trust you. Your clients trust you until you do something that make them not trust you. I was falling asleep in a session one day, and my client was like, Miss Bogart, are you falling asleep? And as quick as I wanted to say no, but this girl was looking at my eyes, kept rolling, and I was bobbing. And I said, I'm sorry, I am. I said, girl, I went out last night and know I shouldn't have. And once I said that, we laughed it off. I said, but let me step away, get some water, put some on my face, and I'm gonna come back. And I gave her all the attention she needed. But if I would have been like, no, and she's sitting there looking at me, and then y'all, what I did after I ended that Zoom call, I called my boyfriend on Zoom, and I said, let me do what I was doing on the thing. He said, it is very clear that she was like, yeah, she could see you. And I was like, oh my God. So you have to be direct and honest with them, even about their situation. So yeah. So, when you hit 50, don't be trying to go out and stay out to 2 o'clock in the morning, then come back and do a session. And this particular client, she lays in the bed the whole, and I want to blame her, but I can't. And she be looking so comfortable. I'm like, girl, you can't come up here laying in the bed. But yeah, that's what works for her. So what you have to understand is that sometimes clients are incapacitated by conditions that need to be addressed. You have to let them know if they're saying I'm not depressed, and you've done an assessment, you're using a tool on them that identify that they're depressed. And remember, you have like the Beck depression tool that you should be implementing. They answer those questions. So if the results come back that they're depressed and they're like, no, I'm not depressed, that's that incongruence again. You got to call them out on that. You got to let them know, well, you answered these questions, so blah, blah, blah. So this is at that time, the social worker can help the client think of times when things were better. So that's where you ask creative questions, you ask open-ended questions, you really ask what you call that magical question, and this is where motivational interviewing comes into place. Questions, comments, or concerns? So I gave you some techniques earlier. Remember, you got to clearly identify the problem. If you don't understand, if the client said, oh, they come in and they prioritize and they say, I want to work on the issue with my job, but then she keeps jumping back to her husband, like the example I gave you earlier, you got to ask her, hey, what problem are we working on? Do you want to talk about your husband, or do you want to talk about your job? Now, what you don't say is you only got 3 sessions. So you got to pick and choose what you're going to talk about. What you're going to say is, Miss Sherry, we had identified earlier, we're going to talk about your job, but you continue to talk about your husband. So do you want to talk about that instead? You give them the option because it's their session. So making sure you set goals with them and not for them. And the goal is to prevent relapse. But remember, it will happen. And if it happens, you don't judge them and they just start over again. Something else the exam wants us to know is sympathy versus empathy. In essence, we are supposed to be empathetic or sympathetic with our clients.
Empathetic.
Empathetic, yes. Empathetic means you share and identify with another person's situation or feeling. So you don't be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Sympathy is, I'm so sorry to hear that. No, we are social workers. Show empathy. When you're working with voluntary, involuntary clients, it's challenging. They show up on the exam as molesters, child abusers. They was forced to come to court by a probation officer or a judge. Sometimes the court order. So remember, you still have to treat them as a human, despite what they have done. I don't know if you all heard about the social worker in California, I believe, that was murdered about 3 months ago. Yeah. And so all of her clients were, I think they were men, but they were all individuals that just came out of jail. So she didn't judge them. Now I am judging her because I don't know why she was in that office at 9 p.m. at nighttime. I don't like that with that population. However, what ends up happening is they, at this point, they weren't involuntary clients, but you got to remember with the involuntary clients, they're challenging. And with individuals with backgrounds like that, they're challenging as well, that I just spoke of. And so when they come, you still have to be empathetic with them. You have to treat them as a human and remain professional. Now, one thing you don't do with mandatory clients is start saying, I'm going to tell your probation officer on you, because by law, you can't report things. It's some things you can report, but some things you still have to maintain confidentiality. So keep that in mind too. Listening is a intervention, whether you believe it or not. Our client, your client would try you on the exam. It wants to make sure that you're listening to the client experience. That's why it comes up with their paraphrasing, the clarification, and things of that nature. And so when you're listening to them, that often increases the engagement and communication. That builds trust with them. And remember, it is okay to be silent in a session. While you're treating a client, you don't always have to be talking. Questions, comments, or concerns? Another thing with silence is if your client is like just going, and it seems like it's something emotional in a session, and then all of a sudden they become silent, let it be silent for at least about 8 seconds. And then after that, you're going to acknowledge that, because that silence is now a feeling. And so you're going to say, Miss Sherry, I saw you took a pause there. Are you okay? And they're going to come back again. You're clarifying. You're trying to get something out of them. You're probing. And so they're going to come back and say, you know what, when I was just telling you that, I just thought about how much I miss my mama, or whatever the issue is. And that's where that empathy will come in from you. Questions, comments, or concerns? So we talked about the technique of role play earlier. And so role playing is, as I told you earlier, a lot of times it's used in family sessions. This is when a social worker can actually assist the client, like showing them how to go home from work and not take it out on their husband and their child. So you're gonna walk through it with the client. You're gonna be the husband. They're gonna be who they are. They're gonna come in and push the door open, and I'm gonna be the husband, like, so how was your day today? And they're gonna really be themselves. And then as the social worker, you come back and say, let's try that again. So that's what role playing looks like. um With role playing, you have to understand that it emphasizes personal concerns, problems, behavior. And sometimes, if you learn your client, you can be the client and they can be the husband. And so, once you're doing that role playing, they can now see how they really look. There are 4 stages to role playing: it's preparation and explanation. So, you're explaining what will be done, and then preparation of the activity, you're getting ready to do the activity, and then role playing, you're actually doing it, and then you're going to come back and debrief. Questions, comments, or concerns? Because this is part of the intervention process. If you have to leave at my time is 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, you can, but I'm going to try to give you all 15 minutes back from earlier since I allowed Miss Jones to give her testimony. Questions, comments, or concerns about anything so far? So you have for role playing, there are different types of modeling. You have live modeling. If just think about live TV, it's real. It's going on at that moment. So it's a real person performing. You have symbolic modeling. This is film, videotape. So you turn on a YouTube video or whatever for your client, or you pop in a VHS tape. I just told my age. Or you show them something that they can see on a screen. And then you have the participant modeling. And this is where there's an anxiety evoking behavior. It can also look like, it could symbolize like flooding or something like that. But when you have them participate in it, that's something that gives them anxiety, and they're actually participating in that thing that prompts the behavior. So if it's every time they see their supervisor at work, their anxiety goes up. What you're going to do is they like you the supervisor. And again, it's modeling, and you're going to do the things, you're going to portray the characteristics that the client told you about the supervisor. And you, as the therapist, is going to see if their anxiety is still going up while you just playing the supervisor. Then you know you need to change their intervention. Because if their anxiety is going up in session and you just playing the role, just imagine what happens to them when they go to work. And then you have covert modeling, which really doesn't show up on the exam, but this is when you have the client to use their imagination. So they using an imaginary situation in detail. So they're just kind of explaining stuff to you using their vivid piece. And again, you assessing to see if they're having any consequences or any anxiety being built around it. The other ones don't show up, coping modeling, mastery modeling, model, but you will receive what I'm showing you, so you can look at it later. So techniques for harm reduction or self and other harm. Remember, um, if somebody tells you that they want to harm themselves or others, there's actions and steps you have to take. But a harm reduction approach refers to any program, policy, or intervention that seeks to reduce or minimize the adverse health and social consequences. This is associated with illness, conditions, and or behaviors such as substance use without requiring a client to practice abstinence. So for harm reduction, for the sake of the exam, it could be anybody that's using drugs. And so if somebody used needles, what is a harm reduction that you can tell them about? Mastermind?
Like the clean needle exchange.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. There you go. So you want to put something in place. You don't want to say, "Oh, don't go out there and shoot up after we leave session today." No, because now you sound judgmental. But you're gonna say, "Hey, Sherry, um, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna give you the phone number to this company that's gonna give you clean needles and even a little box you can put your needle in." So that's what harm reduction is looking like here. Um. So what you have to understand is, for the sake of the exam, harm reduction is practical, it's effective, it's feasible, and it's a high impact on the community. So if you give them the box and the clean needles to put the needles in after they get through shooting themselves up, then now they don't throw which might not happen, may or may not happen, but it's a chance they won't throw the needle on the ground in the park, and then your grandchild come to the park and pick the needle up and accidentally stick themselves with it. So that's what harm reduction looks like. Any questions? In essence, with harm reductions, you are meeting the client where they are currently. If you have a person that's a lot of times this is teenagers, but they're cutters. Cutters don't really want to commit suicide. Did y'all know that? They just want to, they got like this drive or something. It just makes them feel good. But if they're trying to stop cutting themselves, you put a harm reduction in place, and it may be telling them to put a band-aid over their area that they cut. So when they see the band-aid can be a signal to the brain, like, we're not going to do that. Now, not to say they may not switch to the other wrist. So, you got to be smart when you, also, you do have to be smart when you talking to clients that have harm issues, because when they want something, they can outthink you. So that's why you really involve them in the intervention. Questions, comments, concerns? Oh, look, let me see something, because I think it was.
Miss Sherry, I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Um, for when we were talking about role playing and role modeling, so role playing is one thing and role modeling is another, or do they go hand in hand?
They go hand in hand. So role playing has those role modelings and that covert and the live modeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with it, in all of those, the therapist is going to always be involved. Whether if it's live, you are the one that's providing them with the video to watch. And then at the end of any of those, you're going to go back and debrief with them what they learned, and you're going to let them know what you noticed while they was watching the video, or while they was doing the live modeling or whatever. You're going to let them know if you saw their anxiety increase, if you saw them feeling more confident. So all those techniques give you the opportunity to further assess the client and have a debriefing with them. It's just different ways to get them to do it.
Okay.
Did
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah, and would it be correct to think of it also role playing a way to teach communication? Is that why we're doing role playing? Okay.
Yes, because the thing is, if they're having a hard time with they're having issues at work with their supervisor. And so that means if your supervisor brings you anxiety, do you really think you're going to be able to have an effective conversation with them?
Right. No.
9 times out of 10, either you're going to shut down because you're going to be thinking every time I say something, they're probably going to try to write me up. So, in that role modeling, you can play the client or you can play the supervisor based off of the information they give you about the supervisor, or you can play the client based off of information you gathered from your assessment. And it may take 3 or 4 sessions before you can get to role modeling. But again, if you only have 3 sessions, that means you got to capture that information almost in the first session so you can truly role model with them. And it's possible. I have a client that's yeah, but I have a client and she's having issues in a social group. She likes another female. And I only had 5 sessions with her, but in the first session, first of all, she had did an assessment. I read it before we met, so I kind of had an idea of what was going on. So by session 2, we was role modeling. We was role playing. And she was like, even in the role playing, she kept putting her head down because she had to tell me how she felt about me. She was having a hard time dealing with the coach. She has these feelings for a coworker. She didn't know if her coworker was straight or what, but she kind of got a sense that she was part of the plus community. And so I was even though we was virtual, I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm so glad you came to work today. And she was like, hey. And I was like, so how was your weekend? And she was like, it was fun. And during role play, she was supposed to say, over the weekend, I was really thinking about you after we had a phone call. I had told her what to say. And we got midway through, and she never did say anything. So when we finished, got to the end, I was like, what did you not do with me? And she said, I never told you how I felt. So if she couldn't do it with me, I can only assume that she wouldn't even be able to do it with her coworker. Did it make sense? And
Yeah,
that was a real
absolutely.
story I just gave you.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
hmm So those are the things. So our next session, I was like, so hey, how you doing? And she was like, you've already started. I mean, I just jumped straight into it in our next session. And she was like, Miss Sherry, I'm still not ready to tell her. So now we stopped the role playing and we just went into, let's look at this intervention that we put in place because it's not working, obviously, and we had to make some modifications to it. Okay, okay. CBT is this is what I use with 99% of my clients, and it works. Homework is often done between sessions to record their encounters. But what you're doing is your client often comes in with this negative thought. Again, they had to go through the pre contemplation state unless they were mandated to come to you. And so, what you want to do is help them restructure their thought process. CBT is structured, it's a time limited approach to psychotherapy, and it addresses the current problem. Questions, comments, or concerns about CBT? Okay. So here's a visual of it. I come in, oh, I keep failing my exam. I'm gonna come to Dr. Pam, and Dr. Pam and Sherry gonna tell me this, and we doing all this talking, and still in the back of your head, you like, I'm still not gonna pass this exam when I take it in 3 weeks. So until you change your thought, your behavior is gonna be the same. So you in session, you hear, because you contemplated, but you ain't taking notes. You playing with you keep talking to your kids. So you have to learn, like, look, I'm about to get in this call, I'm paying for this. I need you to stay 10 feet away. I gave you your food. Don't bother me while I'm on this call. So when you start changing your thought process, your behavior change, your emotions change, and you become like Miss Jones, who was on the call earlier. Y'all see how energetic she was. Like, I went in that thing knowing I was gonna pass. So when she changed her thoughts, her behavior changed, her emotions changed. So it does make a difference. Questions,
Um,
comments? Uh-huh.
yes. I just recently took a practice test, and with the practice test, it gave me like this question, like which one went first, the thoughts, the behaviors, or the emotions, or the emotions, behaviors, or thoughts, or the behaviors or emotions or thoughts. And I kept like, well, I know the thoughts, but I didn't know what came after that, because I put thoughts first, then the behavior, then the emotions. No. I put the thoughts and then the emotions, and then the emotions will result to the behaviors.
So,
But I'm looking
Crystal,
at
I'm
this
going to stop
model.
you. I'm getting ready to stop you. Look at the errors, Crystal.
I know, but it's going like this and
It
then
can
like
go,
that.
so it can go either way. But your thoughts are going to affect you. So if I think I'm not going to pass the exam, when I take a practice test, my behavior, I'm not, every time I read a question, I'm a second guess myself. Or my thoughts can affect my emotions. I'm like, dog, I'm taking the same practice exam again. Miss Sharon gave me the same exam 3 times now. And so, so your emotions aren't in it. But so it's no right or wrong way, but normally it's gonna be thoughts to behavior and emotions.
So it's
But it
thoughts,
can be
behaviors, and
thoughts to
emotions.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, but the scenario, well, the answer was it was like all mixed up, and I was just trying to figure. I knew thoughts was the first one, but then I couldn't figure out what was the second one. Was it the behaviors or the emotions? But I went with the thoughts, the emotions, and the behavior.
Normally it's thoughts, behaviors, and emotions because the way you think is the way you act. Miss Crystal, have you ever been on the interstate and the interstate got 3 lanes and then they doing construction, so they kind of push it down to 1 lane and then they had that gray concrete wall up. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about?
Yeah.
And you driving and it looked like the lane is smaller than what it normally is, and you like,
Yeah.
Lord, I hope my rear view mirror don't scrape. See, Sandra over there shaking her head. I
Mm-hmm.
hope my rear view mirror don't scrape this wall. You probably never been in this situation, but I'm trying to give you a visual. If
Mm-hmm.
you ever been in that situation, if you keep thinking your rear view mirror is going to scrape that wall, it's going to scrape that wall. So your thoughts affect your behavior because your behavior is your driving. You know how to drive. It just looks like that lane is small and they got barriers and cones and lights up. So all of this stuff is a distractor right now. And so your mirror scraped that wall because your behavior was that instead of you driving 10 and 2 and straight, you driving 10 and 2, but your thoughts so concentrated on that you end up scraping the wall. Now your emotions is in place because you're like, God dang it, I just scraped my mirror on my wall. I'm dealing with that darn barrier. Sandra, it mustn't happened to you before. But so I don't know if that situation has ever happened, but Crystal, did you understand that visual?
Yeah, I understand the visual.
Yeah, so that's what it is. But it can be either or. But for the sake of the test, read the question. That's why we teach you all the content so that you can know that it can be wing or wang. And there are some things I tell my students all the time. Some things just kind of go hand in hand, like how Glory was saying. So is role modeling the same, like all this stuff? It goes hand in hand. It was role modeling, but you had all those factors underneath it. Make sense? Don't? I need to explain it another way. Talking too much. Didn't say enough. Crystal?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So, I'm having a hot one, y'all. If you've been with me, you know I'm going through premenopause. So, the methods of conflict resolution. We have to understand with there's a management of conflict resolution, and the steps is recognize recognition of an existing or potential conflict, and then you got an assessment of the conflict, and then you have the selection of an appropriate strategy and treatment. That's why we got to know big words, and then you got an intervention. And so, conflict resolution, it really looks like this. You have the cooperation, under that, you accommodating, and then you have the unassertive piece, avoiding, and uncooperating is competing, and then assertiveness is compromising. Oh, Lord. Okay. Crisis, we talked about the crisis intervention. On the exam, they want to know that you understand that the goal is to get the client back to an equilibrium state. Anybody ever seen the word equilibrium on the exam? That's what they want. A lot of times that's referencing to something in crisis. Is either getting them back to normal state or equilibrium. That's back where they were before their house burned down, or before they was raped, or before they was robbed, or whatever the situation is. A crisis does not need to be precipitated by a major life event. It could be anything. I got a client now I'm working with. She works from home, and she heard some gunshots. Jessica, you got a question?
Yeah, so at the hospital, we use the term back to baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So from acute to baseline, but sometimes baseline can change over time.
Mm-hmm.
So with the, I guess, and what that would look like on a test? Would that be like functioning? Like,
Back to the basic state. So if I saw somebody get murdered, that could be a potential crisis for me. So they got murdered like right up the street from my house. Now I'm kind of scared to come home, to drive into my neighborhood and come home. And so remember, crisis it shouldn't exceed over 6 to 8 weeks. So my goal is to get that person back to the normal state, or the basic would be getting me back to being comfortable with driving into my neighborhood and staying in my house and not staying in my mama's house every night because I witnessed what I witnessed.
so like if we were looking at a diagnostic perspective, so we're saying maybe the recent event may have the diagnosis of acute stress disorder. Then after the 6 to 8 weeks, that's when you're going to be diagnosing PTSD, which would then become chronic. So then,
You don't diagnose it after that, you refer them out because on the test, if it's a crisis question, you're probably just a crisis worker.
Okay.
Remember, we
So
talked about workers. So once after that, if it's past, I'm just gonna say 8 weeks. If it's past the 8 weeks, you need to refer them out to outpatient because you're no longer qualified to, for the sake of the test, you're a crisis worker and you're no longer qualified to manage that
so
case.
that's like EAP and maybe like Red Cross, immediate assistance?
You talking about for long term or for the?
No, well, if you're a crisis worker,
It
like
could be, it could be
okay.
EAP, it could be crisis, or on the exam, it's just gonna say like a client came in and they had an issue, something acute happened. Those are gonna be the words used in the vignette. And everybody
So,
know acute is something just came on real quick. That you was living normal on Monday at 5 o'clock, and then Monday at 10 o'clock, something just happened and it puts you in this anxiety state.
so one more time, if it's after a couple weeks,
six
then
to
you would
eight
have to
weeks.
be for, because then it will be acute,
It's no
distress.
longer acute. So it was acute when it first came on because a crisis just quickly happened. Your house just burned down and everything in your house is gone. So that just happened,
Mhm.
And so if you're seeing a crisis interventionist for 8 weeks and you still stuck there, which because there's no time frame of a crisis. Well, there is a time frame. It's 6 to 8 weeks, but after 8 weeks, it's no longer a crisis. It's something that's could potentially be chronic. It could potentially be long term, but it's not crisis. If it was somebody came in their house, burned down, and they lost everything, and by week 6, they're like, you know what? I have all state. I'm in good hands. I can talk to them. They're gonna give me everything back. I know they can't give me the pictures back from my mama, and my mama is no longer here, but I'm okay with it. But if you got a person still 8 weeks out and they're still crying and they in good hands with Allstate and they're just like, oh, and I want mine and I can't live no more. It's no longer, I mean, you're gonna assess and make sure first you're gonna clarify what they mean by I can't live anymore because you want to assess that to see if they're really going to do something or if it was just a general statement that they was making. But after that point, it's something longer.
So can I ask a question? So in a situation where equilibrium is used, I know I've seen homeostasis as well, which is, I mean, they both practically are the same, but one is broader. I think homeostasis is on the broader spectrum, but I don't remember how it was stated in the exam, but I've seen where homeostasis was an option as well as equilibrium. So could you kind of explain the differences if we were to see that in question in the exam?
So with your homeostasis, you want the same thing for everything is the same. I don't recall it showing up in the sense of crisis. Kay, how did you see it in a crisis?
Oh my goodness, don't get me lying. But I know it had something to do with the client's stability. I just don't remember how it was worded.
Because typically the homeostasis means like everybody is on the same page
Hmm.
or things of that nature. But I will look that one up
Okay.
and see if I can get back with you because I got to answer somebody's question about boot camp as well. Oh, that's your process of a crisis intervention. I think it was Crystal, you was asking, so you assess, plan a therapeutic intervention. You're going to implement that technique. You may even have to roll, Gloria, on this one. You might have to do some role playing because, again, they're in a crisis and they can't stay focused long to do whatever they need to do. You got your resolution of the crisis and then your anticipatory planning. You should be done with them, but if it's beyond that, you refer them out. So the goal of a crisis is to relieve the impact. You know what, Kay? I'm gonna get you to read it. A, B, C, and D.
Okay. The goal of the crisis intervention is to A, relieve the impact of stress with emotional and social resources. B, return the client to a previous level of functional, which is regain equilibrium. C, help strengthen coping mechanism during the crisis period. D, develop adaptive coping strategies. You want me to continue?
You can read the rest.
Okay, 3, crisis intervention focuses on on the there and now. B, in time limited, most crises last 4 to 6 weeks.
It can
C, it
be
is
up to 8.
directed. Okay, I'm sorry. You said just stick to A?
I was saying I just wanted to insert. It can also be up to 8 weeks. You may see up to 8 weeks on a practice
Yes.
exam or something.
Okay, up to crisis lasts up to 4 to 8 weeks, so we can kind of map that in our heads. C, it is directive and requires higher level of activity and involvement from a social worker. A social worker sets specific goals and tasks in order to increase a client's sense of mastery and control.
So this is one where you can sometimes, you don't want to do it, but occasionally you can plan for them because they're not where they need to be in order to function at a good capacity to make right decisions.
Okay.
But this is the word you're going to see a lot of times, K, equilibrium.
Okay.
Yeah. Questions, comments, or concerns? Anger management techniques. This is where, excuse me, it may be an older guy on the exam or a kid. You have to be able to differentiate. For the most part, for kids, you're really going to see like oppositional conduct disorder, stuff like that. But for an older male, anger management techniques, and this is when the client comes to the social worker because they can't control their anger. I don't deal with anger clients. If I get one, it's because they snuck in on me. For me, they're hard to work with and make me feel like I'm not productive in a session. But anger can also increase the risk for developing physical health problems. So when you're assessing them, you have to ask them about their blood pressure. There may be a homework assignment where they check their blood pressure and things of that nature. They end up with heart diseases because they when you're angry, it causes stress on the body. They don't sleep well. They don't digest their food good. They always walking around with headaches. It's just unhealthy. And so the social worker can develop a treatment plan with the client in order to help them change those behaviors.
Well, I'm hoping that they went to the doctor before they come to me with all these health issues.
So, sometimes you get them and you have to refer them to the doctor. So that is a test question. If they come in, just say they come in and say, I'm having anger issues, but so one of the questions you want to ask in that assessment, and you should have actually gotten the information out of your biopsychosocial physical assessment, but they may not answer it correctly. So you are going to ask again, even beyond that assessment, like, have you been having any of these problems? And if they say yes, you're going to ask, when was the last time they had any of those problems? And if they said last night, you need to stop that session and refer them to their doctor. And then they come back to you once that's resolved because now it's a medical issue and we don't provide services to our clients when they have a medical or mental issue going on. Now, on the other hand, they went to the doctor and they having all them issues, and then the doctor give them a tool on anger or depression, and they find out, oh, you got some anger issues, and then they refer them to us. But we be like, okay, this came from Dr. Such and such at BetterHelp Clinic. And so those are things you need to continue to assess. Like, hey, Dr. Phil referred you over here because you was having these issues. And so you're gonna always ask, so have you been having any heart palpitations or any thing like that since the last time we met? So that would be part of that treatment plan. So when you're working with clients with anger issues, you want to use relaxation exercises. Now we call them, do anybody know the word we use? It starts with a G. Grounding techniques, yes. You may or may not see it on the exam, but grounding techniques means deep breathing, meditation, guided imagery. Be careful with that. You may suggest that they go to yoga or exercise. But again, be careful with how you recommend those things, because if they got some health issues and you suggesting this and they out there running and have a heart attack, guess who can get in trouble? That's why you playing with them and not for you. Be like, so what are some things you think you can do? I have a client, she's going through some stuff, and I asked, so what do you like doing? And she's like, yoga, but I haven't done it in a while. Going through a divorce and all this stuff. So I'm like, hey, let's practice yoga. I had to make sure, are you in good condition? Because she pop off on everybody at work. So she got some anger issues. Again, on the assessment, it didn't look like she was angry. Now I got to work with her. So these are things I use, which she was already using to her benefit. And she said the only reason she goes back to yoga is because she go to yoga the day before our sessions, because she be like, I know you're gonna ask me, did I go to yoga? I don't care how you went. I'm just glad you went. So remember, those are those techniques you use. The cognitive techniques is replacing destructive thoughts. Again, that's CBT. Communication skills. Somebody asked about that earlier. We sometimes need to make sure we're listening. We think before we speak. We don't become defensive with our clients. So we're watching ourselves, but we're also teaching our clients those techniques as well, so they can better communicate with their boss or their husband or whoever. So remember, you will see the word psychological a lot of times. Stress is psychological and it causes physical reactions. And so when there's life events that happens, you're either going to go into the fight or the flight response. So you either want to fight or you're going to run. I see a snake, I'm running. I'm always in flight if I see any type of reptile. So how many people do I have on here? Let's see. Questions, comments, or concerns. I'm trying to see what I can skip to really fast. Oh, when I outlined this chapter, it didn't look this long. Just 1 second. So this is an ethic audit. This does show up on the exam as well. And what it does is examine risks. Remember, when our clients come to us, we're assessing them for their strengths and we're assessing them for risks as well. So in this, you're gathering information and you can get permission from your client. You may need to get information from another agency. You may need to do interviews with other people. But remember, before you do that, you have to remember the clients have a right. If they say you can't talk to anybody else, you can't talk to them. If they give you permission to give out information, make sure you have an informed consent. Don't share, overshare, or anything like that. Let's see. Man, there's so much in this chapter. Psychoanalytic theory. This shows up on the exam. It's Sigmund Freud's work. And so what you have to remember is, like he says here, personalities arise because of attempts to resolve conflicts between the unconscious. So remember, Freud focuses on the unconscious, sexual and aggressive impulses, and societal demands to restrain the impulses. So Freud believes that behavior and personality derives from the constant and unique interaction of conflicting psychological forces. So, when I was telling you about the preconscious, the conscious, and the unconscious, and the id, the ego, and the superego, this is what makes us do the things that we do. And I shared that picture with you all again. And that's all Freud's work. It does show up on the exam. You need to know syntonic. Syntonic is I am who I am. I don't care how much you tell me that you don't like my attitude. It's in sync with who I am, and I'm not going to change it. This tonic is I don't like how this feel. I don't like this feeling with my ego. I feel guilty about constantly taking money from this bank. That example that I gave you all earlier. I don't like this anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn myself in to the police. So, questions, comments, or concerns about that? Your ego strength shows up on the exam. This is the ability to deal with the demands of all three: the id, the superego, and the reality of everything. So that's an ego strength. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take this on and be a big girl about it and just make sure I'm working on everything as a whole and doing what's morally right. Because I already feel torn between. Um, we talked about the oral phases. We talked about Oedipus. Uh, so we are going to stop and go through some questions really fast. Anybody have any questions? I will send you this, and you can go over the rest. Questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. K, I have a number of 1 through 5. Pick a number 1 through 5.
2.
Okay. Gloria, pick a number 1 through 5.
3.
Okay. So my number was 5, Gloria. You're close. So what I'm about to do is read a question out loud, and everybody can listen to the question that I'm about to read because I need you all to understand how to listen to questions and to be able to give me an answer. Just 1 second. I'm about to pull the questions up. You won't see the question on the screen. So, Gloria, a 29-year-old woman reports daily anxiety, restlessness, muscle tension, and excessive worry about work, health, and relationships for the past 8 months. She denies panic attacks. Which differentiational diagnosis should be considered alongside generalized anxiety disorder? Is it A, hypothyroidism, B, schizophrenia, C, alcohol use disorder? A 29-year-old woman reports daily anxiety, restlessness, muscle tension, and excessive worry about work, health, and relationships for the past 8 months. She denies panic attacks, which differentiational diagnosis should be considered alongside generalized anxiety disorder. A. Hypothyroid hypothyroidism. B. Schizophrenia. C. Alcohol use disorder.
A, hypothyroidism.
It is. You got it right. So I'm trying to teach you all to be able to listen. Okay, I see Jessica and I see Natalie next on my screen. I have a number of 1 through 25. Jessica, pick a number.
10.
Natalie, pick a number. 1 through 25.
Number 1, I was muted.
Okay. My number was 10, so it's Jessica. Jessica, yep, listen to the question. Let me pull a question up. Jessica, a client with a substance use disorder wants to rebuild family relationships. The family is open but cautious based on broken trust. What should be included in an intervention plan first? A. Relapse prevention strategies. B. Family therapy emphasizing communication and relationship repair. Or C. Individual counseling apart from family members. A client with a substance use disorder wants to rebuild family relationships. The family is open but cautious based on broken trust. What should be included in the intervention plan first? A. Relapse prevention strategies. B. Family therapy emphasizing communication and relationship repair. C. Individual counseling apart from family members.
I mean, I don't even know how to begin to rule that out.
You got a client who says, I got a substance abuse problem, but I want to be back with my family. So I want to rebuild this family relationship. The family says, yeah, we'll come to session with him, but we're going to be cautious because he broke all these promises in the past. So what should be included in the intervention plan first? A, relapse prevention strategies. B, family therapy that's focusing on communication and relationship repair. C, individual counseling apart from family members. Or you can pass it to Natalie.
I mean, the only option that I can think of right now would be the relapse prevention.
And who is that going to help? The family or the individual?
The individual.
But this ain't about the individual.
I thought it was.
It's about the family.
Mhm.
So what did the family say?
They're cautious because of a previous broken trust. So you would go with counseling with the family?
Yes. Family therapy focusing on communication and relationship repair because you have a client with substance use disorder wants to rebuild that family relationship. So you got to bring the whole family in. The person that's using say, I want to rebuild, and the family agrees to it, but they cautious. So if they're cautious, that means they're afraid they're going to get hurt again. So now you got to talk about communication and relationship repair on a family level. Gloria, that was kind of like what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Makes sense now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So I
But
think for
Jessica, hold
me,
up, Miss K. Jessica, you still looking thrown off.
But because one, it's a client, the client that's coming to you is the one that has substance. So I'm just trying to identify the target. The target you said was the family or was the client that came to you in relapse prevention and substance use?
So a client with substance use disorder wants to rebuild family relationships. So he wants to rebuild the relationship with his family. That part makes sense?
Yeah, that part makes sense.
So the second part is the family is open, but they're cautious based on broken trust. Because if somebody has substance use issues, guess what they're often doing to the family?
Well, they're stealing and all that other stuff.
So the family is like, we'll do this, but we cautious. What should be included in the intervention plan first? So we're not focusing on if we was just focusing on the client with substance abuse, that's a possibility. You could talk about a relapse prevention strategies, but he's not coming to us by himself. He's coming to us with his family. So we don't talk about his relapsing. That's not the first thing we're going to tell him or the family. Yeah, we could be like, oh, family, he may relapse, but you first got to get the family therapy together and help them focus on communication and relationship repair because trust has been broken.
Miss
Well, this
Sherry.
is probably just one of those things where I put myself in the question because when I deal with my clients in a substance abuse capacity, we're always looking for potential triggers for relapse. And so going into that
Jessica, I'm going to
space with the
stop you
parent.
right there. I have told you this
Miss
before.
Sherry.
Hold up just 1 second. What
Okay.
have I told you not to do, Jessica?
Not put myself in the question, but I'm acknowledging that.
And don't put your job in the question
yeah.
because you would get it wrong each time. Okay, first before Sandra, Miss K.
So this is what I was going to say because that used to confuse me in the beginning too. But just like group and family, that means the answer choice should have something with the family, not just the individual.
Yeah,
So in
because
this case, I understand the question where the part where you said the individual have the issue is kind of like the background, it's stating where he was at or where he's coming from. And now the problem here is he wants to rebuild with his family, which is what we should be focused on, what we're trying to address. So that automatically tells us now this is kind of like family therapy, group therapy. So therefore, we have to consider the intervention being group oriented or family oriented,
yes,
if that
it,
helps somebody. Because
it helps.
I used to do what Jessica is doing, so I kind of somewhat
And it
get.
also, Jessica, potentially it had to set the tone of what was going on with the client. The
Yeah.
client is somebody who used drugs. He
Yes,
broke the trust with his family. That can also be a distractor, which may
Mhm.
be why when you're looking at your answer choices, you're focusing on him and relapse prevention strategies. So that's why you got to read that question, because the first part was just giving you some buffer and giving you his background. But it says he want to rebuild his family, and the family said, we open, but we cautious. So you heard the word family twice. So now you're going to bring the family to therapy, and you're going to teach them how to communicate effectively and how we can work on building, repairing this relationship. Miss Sandra?
No, she kind of said it a few minutes ago, what I was going to say, because when you have two entities that you're dealing with, you like the first, but if she went with B, then you got everybody in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you just can't treat one. What I was going to say.
Yeah, so the first thing you do is bring the whole family together. Now, the second thing you can do is if they're not getting along, and it didn't say this, but if they're not getting along, or say he started back drinking or whatever, he relapsed, because obviously he's in a good state. If he's at the point where he can say, I want to rebuild my relationship, there's no way he can be in relapse stage talking about, oh yeah, I want to rebuild my family. He don't care nothing about his family in relapse. He only care about getting those substance again, if you really think about it. But you still at work, Jessica. We're not at work tonight. We at this exam. Let's see. We're gonna do one more. Let's see. Nicole and Mastermind. Give me a number of 30. Nicole, give me a number from 30 to 50.
28.
Okay. Mastermind 30 to 50.
43.
My number my
Huh?
number was 45, so it's going to be Mastermind.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Ooh, this one long, so you gotta really listen.
Am I supposed to be able to see this on the screen?
No, 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 no. You got, what did we talk about? What kind of skills you have to use in
Listening,
therapy? The
listening.
listening skills.
Yeah.
Cameras don't know, Coach Sherry. Okay. And I'm flashing too, Mastermind. Come on. Here we go. You have Aaron, who is a 24-year-old male, referred to a clinical social worker for assessment after incurring an assault charge. Aaron states that he attacked a colleague because he felt threatened by the colleague's demeanor toward him. When asked to elaborate, Aaron states that the colleague gave him feedback about ways to improve his performance, which Aaron perceived as being attacked on his characteristics and an attempt to cost his job. Aaron reports being suspicious of others' motives in other areas of life. For instance, he has difficulties keeping friends or maintaining romantic relationships because he doesn't trust others and assume they have hidden motives. Which of the following personality disorders would the most likely be the diagnosis for Aaron? Is it A, paranoid personality disorder, B, antisocial personality disorder, C, schizoid personality disorder, or D, bipolar personality disorder? Do I need to read it again?
So
Yes,
it's
please.
not bipolar. Huh? It's
Huh?
not bipolar. And then that was the last one. What was the first one was
Paranoid personality disorder,
paranoid. And what was the second one?
antisocial personality disorder,
Antisocial. What was the third one?
schizoid personality disorder.
Okay, can you read the question again?
Mhm. Aaron is a 24-year-old male referred to a clinical social worker for assessment after occurring an assault charge. Aaron states that he attacked a colleague because he felt threatened by the colleague's demeanor towards him. When asked to elaborate, Aaron states that the colleague gave him feedback about ways to improve his performance, which Aaron perceived as being an attack on his characteristics and an attempt to cost his job. Aaron reports being suspicious of others' motives in other areas of his life. For instance, he has problems keeping friends or maintaining romantic relationships because he doesn't trust others and assume they have hidden motives. Which of the following personality disorders should he most likely be diagnosed with?
Is it antisocial?
Mastermind.
Yes. That's not it.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to tell you what I thought it was?
I want you to give me the right answer.
Is it
Well,
schizoid?
Let her say it. Let her say it. Let her say it.
she said it.
Ah,
Schizoid.
no. Y'all,
Oh, I'm
y'all
good.
done made my flashes go up.
Is
I
it
just,
open to discussion? Because I thought it might have been a different one.
Did y'all hear all that paranoid stuff?
I was
yeah,
thinking
I did,
paranoid.
but he attacked somebody. He attacked somebody, and Dr. Pam said she always say when the antisocial personality disorder, they attack people. They don't care about people. They don't care. They'll attack. They'll do stuff that's illegal. So
I'm,
he's in
I'm,
court, right? Or
I'm
no, he's
about to
not.
point this out to y'all. 24. He came to the social worker. Yeah, he did occur an assault charge. Distractor. Y'all remember we talked about the light method? So he said, yeah, he attacked the colleague because he felt threatened by the colleague's demeanor. Then the social worker said, elaborate. And he said, oh, the colleague gave me some feedback on how to improve my performance. And he perceived it as being attacked on his character in an attempt to make him lose his job. That person gave him feedback. And then he went on to say that he's suspicious of others. He think they have motives in life, and he has difficulty keeping friends, maintaining romantic relationships because he does not trust others because he assumed they have hidden motives. If paranoid personality was not written out, you got stuck on that assault charge. That's your distractor.
But isn't that why he came into therapy? Because he had an assault charge?
People come to therapy for a lot of stuff, but when we assess them, we learn what's really going on.
Okay.
But the overt, I mean, I thought it was paranoid because of like the paranoia that he was having throughout the entire time and feeling like people were against him.
He think everybody got a motive against him, so he gonna always attack people because he's paranoid. When we're paranoid, we think somebody following us. We think somebody got a motive to always bring us down. The man didn't do nothing but he was giving him feedback about his job, and he said a man was trying to uh, attack his character and make him lose his job. I always feel like somebody's watching me. That's that
Paranoid.
paranoid.
Yeah, paranoid.
He always thinks somebody is out to get him. Anybody else want to debate it?
Question was long.
That,
Question was long,
that,
and I don't like it this way. I like to
that
see it.
long, yeah, that's why you gotta learn how to listen. All right, y'all. Let's see. So I'm about to take my screen down. Um, I cannot see everyone, and I hate this. I think some people joined the all. I mean, logged off. If I don't call your name, make sure you say something. 2 minutes, you all. We're about to wrap up. Remember, if you don't get everything tonight, you'll get it in the morning about boot camp. uh Go to, if you're on Facebook, go to Dr. Academic Coaching for World Changers. The information is out there. Boot camp is ran by Dr. Pam. It's several hours. It's a lot of information. So I am going to say, if you come to boot camp, come with a open mind. Be prepared to take notes, or you can email academic coaching for that information. You all heard a testimony tonight. Remember, equal finality. We all gonna get there. We all on the same path to getting there. We just not gonna get there at the same time. That is a test question. That's a word, a terminology that should be in our bed, our brain. The other thing I want you all not to do is get caught up like, oh, I was in group with her, and so I should be the next person to pass. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to know what you're not doing correct to get there. So be mindful of that as well. I see you first, Jessica. 2 minutes, what you got out of class tonight?
I'm not at work.
Okay.
That's
Can
a
I?
big one. Mastermind, what did you get out of class tonight?
To
You
slow
mad at
down
me?
and no, oh, am I mad at you? No, I'm just kind of discouraged because I'm so close to this test and I just keep getting shit wrong and it shouldn't be like that. Stuff that I should know. So I'm kind of getting discouraged because I'm really tired of taking this test.
No,
No, I'm
no.
not mad at you. But
That is not what we're going to do, Mastermind. No.
I'm just tired, Miss Shay. I'm tired. I'm
I
tired of
get
taking
it.
this test.
And guess what? Guess what I'm about to use on Mastermind, y'all? We all tired. They tired just like you are. What is that called?
The same shit. I don't know.
I was gonna say group think, which is the same shit.
We're on the same shit, you know?
The word we went over tonight, y'all. What's
Huh?
the word?
Oh, what is it? Universality,
There you go.
universalization, something like that. Yeah.
Universalization.
Great
So
thing.
it's everybody there. Everybody who's on this group with you there. I'm not taking away from your uniqueness feeling though. You're tired, which means you got to look deep down inside and say, what do I keep doing? What do they say? We keep doing the same thing. Insanity is doing the same thing over and
Expecting
over.
a different result, yeah.
So now you got to assess yourself as a whole. You have heard my story a million times.
Yeah.
And I don't expect you to be like, I'm going to do it 13 times. But I was like, I felt that way. And like you said, you're close. And so you just got to do what you need to do. And you're doing it.
Yeah.
Don't second guess yourself.
Well, Miss Sherry, I just wanted to say that I was watching a video and you were in one of my classes.
Girl, we used to be classmates.
Well, in New York, you have to take the L and then you have to take the LC. So you were in one of the first classes that I took with Dr. Pam. So
Wow.
now
See
you're
that?
teaching me to be a C.
Do y'all see?
Wow.
Okay. This is Sheila. I wanted to ask about boot camp. I do not have Facebook, so how would I be able to attend? I paid for the class.
Email academic coaching, that email address that you have, and just ask them for the details.
I did email them. I never received anything.
Okay. Sheila, write my phone number down, 901-494-9334, and text me your email address.
Wait a minute. You said you giving me your number?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give it to me? I
Oh,
can hear
Lord.
you.
This might show. I'm gonna give you another number. 901. Well, they got it now. Yeah, I feel like I'm almost famous and I don't want to change that phone number. 901. I'm speaking it. 494-9334. And somebody gonna look at this YouTube video and start calling me. I'm gonna have to change my number.
So I have to. You want me to call this number or text?
Text me your email address.
Okay.
Miss Sheila, while I have you, 2 minutes. What did you get out of class tonight?
I got out of class to really pay attention to the question and don't assume, because in the beginning it was saying a lot about paranoid, but towards the end it started making you feel, because the things he were wanting to do to someone, that he could have been like schizoid, but the whole question still kind of was about him being paranoid. He didn't trust anyone. So it's about, and my first mind was paranoid. That's exactly where
You
I was
second
going.
guess yourself.
And that's where they say, go with your first mind.
Mhm.
And my first answer was paranoid, and I switched it up.
Yeah. Thank you. Miss Nicole, 2 minutes.
That I need to listen, and that's the hard part because I start trailing off when it gets to be a long question.
Mhm.
And yeah.
And long questions are on the exam. That's why I teach you all the method. Pay attention to the person in the question. Look for age, those qualifiers. Rule out distractions and focus on the clarity of it. Miss Natalie, what did you get out of tonight's class?
That APIET, I didn't know that. Now I do. And I'm
Now,
going to do a little bit more with it.
what is it? What's the A?
Well, that's it. That's what I got to go back and do some assessment.
Now, like I gave you the acronym. What's
That's
the
the
P?
assessment, the planning, the intervention, evaluation, and termination.
You just said you didn't know it.
Well, I wrote it down. So
Oh, okay.
to thine own self be true. Yeah.
But that's the intervention, social worker intervention helping process. And if you
Yeah.
write it when you're doing answer choices, if you think about it, that's what you're doing in 90% of those questions on the vignette if they're not recalled. Miss Sandra, 2 minutes.
Um, is my speaker on?
We can hear
Oh,
you.
it is. I don't know. I guess I've learned that I am because I listen. I'm not a reader, so and that's how I learn. I listen. So that's why I guess when I was listening at them with the questions, I was able to answer them in my head because that's how I learn. I listen, and just all of this, since I'm just starting to study again and get ready to sit for the clinical, that this stuff just came back to me. All I need is like a refresher.
And when you see Dr. Pam, we don't teach alike, but we say things that make things stick. So when you hear both of us teaching, it really like, oh, okay, okay.
I like that she say, you're not gonna learn the material just when you see the words, you should know who they go with. I like that. I like that.
Miss K, give me 2 minutes.
Um, definitely paying attention to the questions, every aspect of it. Knowing your role as a social worker, like whether it's hospital, community, to know the difference between the type of intervention you're gonna put in place. And one pattern I learned about myself when it comes to the helping process, especially switching from LMS to LC, because I'm studying for the C. And I noticed that pattern after missing the test for the third time was the fact that the LMS keeps you in the assessment mode a lot, and I tend to carry that over to the C. So I find that being very analytical, I'm still trying to assess, and most of the answer choice keeps staying in the assessment, thinking you want more answer, and learning that the C is actually not only if the information is not there, yes, you need to assess more, but also you need to act with clinical precision. And I'm trying to get out of that assessment mindset, which is where the LMS keeps you, to get into the C mindset to know when to act or intervene versus keep staying in assessment. And that kind of clicked when I missed the exam for the third time because I realized like, damn, there was a lot of assess. And I'm like, there is no way, you know, so that kind of helped me. And I've been, being intentional with that. And today also reminded me, which I've been creating visual aids too. Yes, I am a part auditory learner, but I'm more of a visual learner. So I've been creating visual aids to remind myself on how to remember the information. For example, when you give the id, ego and super ego, one way I learned to remind myself was the id is the criminal. The the ego was the judge, and then the super ego is the jury. So that was one way it allowed me to remember how to know the orders that they're in. So that has been helping me, and today just kind of reiterate that, okay, now that I recognize what I'm doing wrong to stay on task.
Yep. And that's why I read, I show you words, and I show you all pictures because your brain just taps out. And I like how you said criminal because just like the example I gave, you steal the $2,000 and you're like, I'm gonna steal, and then you go to your ego like, girl, you stole 2,000. If you're gonna steal this time, just take 1,000, so it's trying to negotiate with you. Just 1 second, Mastermind. The next person is Sheila. 2 minutes. Did I do you already, Sheila? Uh-oh. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Sheila, have you already spoke?
Yes, you
Okay.
said Sheila. Yes, I talked.
Okay. Gloria, 2 minutes.
It just reminded me and this isn't my first or second or third rodeo, so I think it just reminds me every time I get ready to study for the C is that when in crisis, you don't continue on with this client. So in crisis, you bring them to equilibrium, you get them back to baseline, and then you refer them out to be diagnosed and to continue. I need to know when to stop my role and when to continue the role. So it's so helpful to just be reminded of where things fit in the KSAs and how it's important to really understand the material versus just taking practice questions. Because I'm in study groups and they get very hung up on the practice questions. They don't feel like we're studying if we're not doing practice questions. And I'm more of a reader, not that I want to read or I like to read, but I need to in order
Yeah.
to understand this stuff.
And you made a valid point. Reading, we have to read for this exam. The practice questions, we're just answering and we're guessing. And
Mhm.
if you read, a lot of times people can read the explanation if it's provided and still don't understand. Like it's so many things you can take from it. So thank you.
Mhm.
Crystal, 2 minutes.
Paradoxical and parallel is the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It can be used interchangeably,
Okay,
but you're gonna
interchange.
most likely you're going to see parallel on the exam.
Okay, you see parallel. Okay,
Hmm.
okay.
And this your first night, right, Crystal?
Yes, yes.
So the next time, if you come next time, you will see Dr. Pam. And like I said earlier, um, even if if she teaches the same thing next week, you're gonna get something then that you don't get tonight. All the material we went over tonight, it will be emailed to you in the morning. Um, and boot camp, you're gonna text me your email address and get that taken care of. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm here on the second and fourth Sundays of the month. The times have switched in case you're a person who's been coming at a certain time. Now it used to be 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now it's 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I don't know what it is, Eastern and all that other stuff. Um, okay, Sheila, I just got your text.
So it's switching from 4 to 5.
So I'm Central Standard Time.
Me too. Because
So
we came in at 4 today.
did we come in at 4? Okay, 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, you're right. And I'm sitting here looking. Look, I'm looking at it in Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Oh,
That's
I
why
just wanted to make sure I was understanding what time.
you're right. That's why I didn't get on my family reunion call tonight. So that's where we are now. That's the new time. 4 Central, 5 Eastern. And the calls are 2 hours. I went over a little bit because I think it was worth hearing what Miss Jones had to say and giving you all an opportunity to hear her testimony. So if there's nothing else, y'all, I am. If you know me, I'm normally in the bed about 7:30 because I get up and work out in the morning. If you live in Mississippi near Russ College, the first Wednesday in April, I'll be doing a presentation. Oh, that's right, Mastermind. I'll be doing a presentation on disabilities, focusing on ADHD, autism, and two other areas I'm focusing on. Emotional DMDD, my brain shutting down, and it's something else. Yes, Miss Mastermind, Mastermind.
Somebody said something about a judge and a jury related to the id and the ego, I think. Can they explain that again? I like that.
I think that was Kate.
Yeah. So yes, I kept getting them confused, and I had to find something because a memory by association to find something that would make it easy for me to remember, and that's what I came up with. So being that the id is I consider the id the criminal because it pleasure principle, you want what you want, you don't care if you're hurting people to do it. And then I know there's sometimes a test question that asks you to which one of those what's the word that I'm looking for? Between the id and the ego, the ego, the super ego and the id, which one is the that differentiate or the moral between them, which is the ego. And I looked at the ego as the judge because when you go to court, it's the judge that you have to present in front of to, tell you who's wrong or who isn't. And then the super ego, I put the super ego as the jury because the jury is the one that determined you're right or wrong after the judge have listened to your case. And that was my way to allow myself to remember. So since then, it's like now I get that right without hesitation.
Oh, that's good. Thank
I
you.
hope that helps. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. Kate, was it you asking about homostasis?
Yes.
Homostasis is in family. I had a brain shut down. It's in family. And you might be right about it may not be equilibrium. I think it's more balance because you want homostasis in the family because the family is off balance and they're not where they need to be.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to get them as close as being the same as you can.
Yeah.
So that may be where you're getting equilibrium from. But you want to get them back to a healthy state because they're in an unhealthy state. So I can see why you saying homostasis. And it could be written somewhere. I've just never used it that way.
Okay.
When you were saying homostasis and equilibrium and back to the normal basis.
Because when I was looking at studying it, because I know, like you said, homeostasis is having the balance within the family, and then the equilibrium relates to the individual themselves, having the balance with it. So you explained the equilibrium right, but I remember seeing homeostasis on the exam before, and I was trying to remember in the context that I've seen it. But you're right, homeostasis is within the family or the organization, keeping the balance within when there's been chaos or crisis or whatever, and you're trying to get them to stability. Whereas the equilibrium, you already explained, is getting the balance with the individual.
In a crisis state. So that's what it is. When you were saying it earlier, and I was writing, I took a note, and I was like, I gotta answer this. So that's what it is. Okay.
Okay.
Did anyone get confused by what we just discussed before we end the call?
No, because I was thinking it was kind of the same because equilibrium, you want to be balanced because you hear people say, "Oh, I almost fell. My equilibrium must be off." So it's kind of like you want that family balance, and you say the word.
Don't use equilibrium. Only use equilibrium in crisis, and use homostasis in family.
Oh, okay. So that's where the confusion came in. One go one way and one go the other way. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, y'all. I enjoyed you. Y'all have a great night. Mastermind, CBT, get them negative thoughts out your head.
I will.
You looking at the person that took the exam 13 times, and I'm happy. I wouldn't change it any other way. I mean, if I can get some of my money back, but you all have a great night.
Good night.
Night.
Bye-bye.